Tiger 1 can put an 88mm round through the front of a Sherman or a T-34 at about 1,500 metres. That one will do it thick end of 3,000 metres.
So, essentially 2 miles away. Goodness me. Here in the Vehicle Conservation Centre, the crowds gather, hushed, in the gloom perhaps, to look at a relic of a fallen empire. The V2, the WW2, the King Tiger second prototype that is back here at the Tank Museum and soon to be restored. And I've got to say, if you like tigers, it's got the juice. Now what I'm not going to do is stand here and just read the board, right? This is the most extraordinary bit of kit, really. Obviously, we've talked an awful lot. Over the years, James and I have talked an awful lot about how Allied tanks are about shippability. They're about mass production. This is about the opposite. I mean, just look at the state of this thing. You're not going to get this on a Type 40 Bailey Bridge, are you? Not in a million years. And what this represents is that the way the Germans have gone for this sort of gigantism in their tank design, because they're really running out of options in terms of production. Their factories are being bothered from the skies, and they're also leaning into this idea that you need really heavy armament to deal with the Soviets at distance. If I recall correctly, King Tigers are deployed to Arnhem, and they're too big for the streets in Oosterbeek, and the roads fall apart when they trundle across them. But it's really amazing that, and I'm going to say really a lot in this film, really amazing that this is back here and it's going to be restored. And we're looking at a kind of a 4-year project, I think. That's what they're saying here, but who knows? Because it's essentially a hollow shell. There's basically nothing inside except Kit Kat wrappers, it turned out, when it was inspected earlier in the year. But it's how imposing this is. And of course it's unique because this is the Porsche turret rather than the standard turret that ends up on the Tiger II. And it's a unicorn tank-wise, and it's here at the Tank Museum. Just, I mean, if you don't get squeaky bum off this, there's something wrong with you. Trying to go undetected, travelling incognito, trying to be invisible.
You're talking about the Scharnhorst in December 1943?
No, I'm talking about, when you're using the internet, you don't want people to know where you are.
Oh, yeah, well, I go to loads of hotels, dodgy internet.
Yeah, me too.
Oh, why is it always like this? Every time I go abroad, I get blocked, don't I? Of course I do. All I want to do is watch James Holland's forgotten German mega comedies.
What you need is a VPN, Jim. And you know what? We've got an amazing World War II headquarters offer on NordVPN.
Fast, secure, no nonsense. Home, abroad, wherever you've ended up, everything just works. And while you're getting on with things, Threat Protection Pro is working away in the background, blocking phishing, scams, malware, and stopping anyone suspicious at the gate. To get your discount off NordVPN, what you do is go to nordvpn.com/WW2HQ, and our link will also give you 4 months on the 2-year plan, extra 4 months, how about that? And there's no risk at all with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the description box down there.
Anyway, tell us more about Scharnhorst, come on.
Yeah, okay, so it's December 1943, and... So Chris, this behemoth, this is, I mean, first of all, tell us about the tank itself. So it's a prototype, it's a test bed.
It is a prototype. When they were producing the Tiger II, they actually came up with 3 prototypes. This is the second one.
Right.
This is the only survivor. The whole thing about it, it's an accident, effectively. This was retained by Henschel, the makers, on their testing ground. Never saw action. It solves a few problems for them, but it is essentially sat there until 1945 when it's discovered by the British Army.
Who bring it here?
Who bring it here, or who brought it up to the Centre for Tank Technology, who effectively messed it up.
Right, okay.
So the trouble we've got with this, and the reason this is such a massive project, is internally it's stripped out.
Right.
So we have no engine, we have no gearbox, transmission. A load of those big mechanical bits are missing, even stuff down to the gun mount.
Right.
That's why we actually need to crack on and do this, and obviously raise a lot of money in order to do it. But it's quite fascinating in terms of this is unique. It's the only surviving King Tiger which has this type of turret.
Yeah.
So this is, from the hull down, this is effectively standard production model,
Yeah.
built by Henschel. The turret is an odd one because it was built by Krupp, but it was designed for a different tank. Because what you have is Dr. Porsche,
Yeah.
who has great ideas about, I can build this amazing heavy tank which will have dual power, it'll be diesel electric, petrol electric. Never comes to fruition because it's too complicated. But they've ordered 100 turrets
Oh, right.
to go on this tank. The problem is his tank doesn't work. They built 50 turrets by that point, so Henschel start knocking these out, and they say, well, don't waste them, stick them on
Right.
your hull, which is why you've got a turret which was designed and built by Krupp
Yeah.
for the Porsche Tiger sitting on the Henschel hull.
And that to people who really know their tank tech is a very...
It is a big thing. This is an absolutely unique vehicle.
Yeah.
It's the only survivor.
Yeah.
The problems with it, that turret, if you look at the front of it, there's a big old curve there.
Yes, I mean, you could trap around in there
Oh, yes.
quite easily.
Yeah. A round hitting that will deflect down into the turret ring, into the hull. Game over.
Okay. I mean, it looks good though, doesn't it? This is the
It
Porsche,
looks
the Porsche
amazing.
way, right?
I mean, we've had masses of people here today incredibly excited to see this.
Yeah.
Because, it looks like a beast, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
If we can get it running again, and this is a major project, it's probably going to 4 years.
Yeah.
If we can source some components, reverse engineer others,
Yeah.
it will be immense.
Yeah.
It'll be absolutely superb.
So people need to go to the Tank Museum website, tankmuseum.org. They need
Yes.
to find the Tiger II project,
Absolutely.
and they need to toss their hard-earned into this.
I'm not going to quote Bob Geldof here, but yes.
Fantastic. I mean, obviously, when you come around the corner, it's an incredibly imposing vehicle.
Yeah.
And we talked about the Tiger and how that in itself has its own mythic quality in terms of how imposing it must have been on the battlefield. But this is of a different order, isn't it?
This is completely different. Tiger 1 is, people won't like me saying this, but effectively it's a stopgap.
Yeah.
The German army comes across T-34 and it's right, stick an 88 on something. This is the tank they actually wanted because they're thinking ahead, saying, well, okay, we need a heavy tank for the medium term, probably 5 to 7 years. This is what they come up with.
Right.
The big things about it, the different things about it, first of all, sloped armour.
Yeah.
So massive armour protection, which to some extent they've learnt from the T-34, which has got the same thing. But the other thing is the gun. That is still 88mm, but that is the KWK-43 gun. It's longer and it's a lot more powerful. I mean, the round itself with its casing
enormous.
is massive. In very simple terms, Tiger 1 can put an 88mm round through the front of a Sherman or a T-34 at about 1,500 metres.
Yeah.
That one will do it thick end of 3,000 metres.
So essentially 2 miles away.
Yeah.
Goodness me. And that's the way tank warfare then goes, isn't it? It's about getting the other guy before he can get you.
To some extent. But in a sense the technology is wasted because even then, possibly on the Eastern Front, big open vistas, certainly in Normandy, places like that, tank actions are carried out at relatively short ranges.
Yes, you're back into the close country.
You're back into 800 metres, perhaps.
Or even much closer. Yeah. So in a way, this is a dead end or a red herring.
We were talking yesterday about the idea of the Durkbelkragen, the breakthrough tank. It's still that concept, but essentially it's too late, isn't it? If they'd had this in 1940, that would have been a different
Barbarossa might have been a different story in 1941 with these,
Absolutely.
but they're a pig to maintain. They're heavy.
They're heavy.
The low loader you need for this.
Getting it anywhere. I mean, you're on a railway flatbed, you have to change the tracks.
Yeah.
Just to actually get it somewhere.
Yeah.
And then, of course, this has got the same engine as a Tiger 1 and a Panther.
But it's much heavier.
A huge amount heavier. So the engine and the transmission are really struggling.
This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit. It's the idea that all the potential runners in the museum, you can jump into them, flick the switches, turn the key, and they all go.
50-ish
Something like that, yeah. Showing up, yeah.
on the running front, which if you asked for them to move tomorrow, we could.
Wow, that's amazing. Vladimir Putin better watch out, right? Right, now, welcome to WW2headquarters.com with me, Al Murray, here at the Tank Museum, and I'm properly backstage. Backstage is always the most interesting part of any showbiz operation. The Tank Museum on Tiger Day is a kind of, it's on show. And so we've come here to the workshop to meet the team that makes this possible. Isn't that right? You make this possible, don't you, gents?
We try our hardest.
They try their hardest. Fantastic. So it's a big day tomorrow. Lots and lots of challenges. And we're in the workshop and there's tanks in pieces in here. How much preparation is there that goes into a day like today?
It's weeks, to be fair, if not months. To have the small team here get together, put the vehicles out with our volunteers, it's huge. It's a lot of effort. And
you're lying awake at night thinking that gearbox?
Always. Rich and I have done a lot of work with Tiger. It's given us sleepless nights.
Yeah, it has done.
It's never a nice night before, but it's a very good one on Sunday night or Saturday night. Sorry.
Yeah, but once it's over, the tank's brought back in here to cool down. And
sadly not. No, so it goes back to the museum because it's such a vehicle that people travel from all over the world to see. It won't come back into the workshop for a couple of months now.
Right.
And then we get to iron out any problems over the winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it's in demand.
It's very much in demand. It's very much like the focus of a lot of people's visits here, right?
Mm-hmm.
They come here to see 131.
Definitely.
What are the challenges though of a vehicle that's that old, right? It's not like you can go to Halfords, is it?
No. Right? God no.
You can't go to Quick Fit for the either.
No.
So. And obviously the challenge is, say it's like a listed building. Are you keeping it in 1943, or are you making it?
I think because it's so iconic, we try to keep it as original as possible. I mean, if you look back at the history of the Tiger, we actually have put a different engine in it that originally came with the vehicle.
Yeah.
So originally it had the 210, which is the aluminium engine. But because after the war they wanted to find out all about the vehicle, they actually cut it up and sectioned it.
Right.
So we've had to put a later engine in it, which is the 230, which is actually from like they fitted in Tiger 2s and whatnot.
Right.
But they didn't do that in the field. It was like while it was out on the battlefield, it was an upgrade that they did do. So they actually had engineers would weld in the extra bits and fit the gearboxes to make that function, and that is basically what we've recreated with the vehicle. But we had to do that through drawings to find certain bits and have them remanufactured to make it work, as it were.
Well, that's quite the task, isn't it?
So
it's true to what they would have done with the vehicle to keep the vehicle running.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And make it more reliable.
Yeah. Which is, after all, one of the things that one of the criticisms thrown at the Tiger is it's not particularly reliable, right?
Yeah.
But how many hours a year are you running it?
So usually with Tiger, we run Tiger Day twice a year. Uniquely this year we ran it at Tank Fest as well, so it's had an extra 3 days. We first paraded it this week. it's like any vehicle. They do have the little
Foibles.
That's the word. Yeah.
Even the first braid is more difficult on the Tiger as opposed to something else because it's so heavy to lift the decks. You're supposed to use 4 men to first braid it, but obviously
There's 3 of you.
yeah, so, and it's not very safe. So we use a forklift to aid us with lifting the decks to first braid it. And that's just checking the oil. You have to lift the decks.
Yeah.
Whereas, some other vehicles you don't necessarily have to. You can, there's hatches to take the dipstick out. So
Okay. What's first braiding? What do we mean by that?
Well, first braiding in its most simplest form is checking the overall condition of the vehicle before you start it or drive it. So checking engine oils, coolants, the running condition, the running parts of the vehicle, so tracks, making sure it's all secure, safe to move and start the vehicle.
Before you turn the key in the ignition. Is there a key in an ignition?
So with the Tiger, the German stuff, there is an ignition key.
Really?
But most other tanks is more just a couple of switches.
Right.
Press the button.
I can't believe that there's actually so you lose the keys. You ever lost the keys?
We haven't. We've got one of our member of staff that loves doing it.
Amazing.
always interesting.
Am I right in thinking the turret ring is slightly warped from the battle damage it's sustained?
That's your.
correct. Actually, when you're inside it, you can while you're in the not the drivers because there's the panel there, but in the bow gunner side, you look up and you can actually see the damage where the hull has been gone down. Yeah, and you can see a hole. And obviously, when it was brought back into service, as it were, they welded a plate over it. So it looks original from the outside, but when you're inside, you can see the battle damage that was caused.
Wow, incredible. Now, obviously, it's not just the Tiger. There's all sorts of other vehicles being run for Tiger Day. And what are we leaning on? I mean, this is because this is the thing. This is an ongoing workshop. It's not just the event days. You're keeping stuff running in general. What's this?
So this is our Centurion 105 Avery. It's been our long-term project for the last 5 years. When we get time not doing displays, we are putting the engine and gearbox back in and hopefully have it running by the end of the year.
Right.
Display seasons next year.
Okay, and so this is the bulldozer variant, basically.
Yes, yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
With a great
big
gun on it.
to defend itself.
Right,
yeah.
okay, excellent. And what are the challenges with because this is a more recent type, it's not foreign type. There were lots of Centurions made over the years. They're in service for decades. I mean, there's still some chassis out there running, aren't there, with the Pakistani army or someone like that, or the South Africans in some form. You know what I mean?
So we recently just did an auction in Australia where they were getting rid of a load of Centurion parts, which we did some bidding on some certain items we're short on. Recently we also got about 7 crated refurbished Meteor engines as well.
Yeah.
So parts are still available for the newer stuff, let's say.
Yeah.
But the smaller items, the more niche items, you still struggle with.
Yeah.
They are running out. So we're not in the business of just taking something off and replacing it.
Yeah.
We have to repair what we have and keep it going for as long as we can.
That's quite a challenge, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if for instance you need something made that's bespoke, how do you go about that? You know, like a part for a gearbox. How do you go about that?
We've got a small engineering department in-house. We've got a very good volunteer that comes in and he will make from scratch. Anything bigger than that we have to outsource. It's about management of time and money.
For the fabrication of parts.
Yeah, exactly.
And also finding the manual that tells you exactly what it is.
Yeah,
finding the part
drawings.
number, the drawings.
Luckily we've got the fantastic archive with a huge array of drawings that we've had to go and use when we were doing some Tiger repairs. We spent time over there getting the drawings and trying to understand it before repairing it, if that makes sense.
And in general, what's the philosophy? It's the idea that all the potential runners in the museum, you can jump into them, flick the switches, turn the key, and they all go? Or is it...
So we would nickname it, well, that's called the running fleet, and there's 50-ish
Something like that, yeah. Going up,
on the running fleet, which if you asked for them to move tomorrow, we could.
Wow.
There's a couple that are currently off the road, but that's through no fault of ours.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's a lot of vehicles.
That's a lot of vehicles.
Yeah, and each vehicle then gets an annual inspection. So they come into this workshop, they get put through like an MOT, and then we don't necessarily repair everything we find. It's a case of managing how we move forward.
Prioritising stuff. Yeah.
through danger and safety.
Okay. And if you had to pick I'm going to ask you each individual, if you had to pick a favourite?
Churchill, just because the amount of work me and Dan have both put on that vehicle. We started with the vehicle as a runner, or with a lot of faults, a lot of problems, and we spent a good year, maybe longer, trying to get it spot on, and now it's at a stage where it's got a few issues, but it's on the button, it does its displays without faults, and hopefully, touch wood.
Big day tomorrow.
Don't get ahead of yourself.
But no, that's why I have an interest in and more liking towards that vehicle. It's just the amount of work we put into it.
Okay.
It's exactly that reason. It's the first big vehicle I worked on here after joining. It's the first big vehicle I drove as well. And yeah, it's Churchill, sorry.
Okay. And finally?
My actual favourite is a Challenger 2, just because that's what I used to fix when I was in the army.
Right.
But Challenger 1 is very similar, so it's Challenger 1 and Challenger 2 is my favourite.
Okay, so a bit more up to date than these.
Yeah, it is, but that's the only
dinosaurs.
reason. Yeah, there's so many good, nice tanks out there, but that's the only one just because the time I served, following them and fixing them.
So it's like it's like the back of your hand.
Yeah, it's history, is it?
Your history.
Yeah, you look back at good times you used to.
Okay, brilliant. I mean, I have to say, the idea that there's 50 vehicles that are pretty much running is boggling, because if you come to an event here, you might see, say, a dozen maximum in a kind of parade in the arena. But to know that there's 50 ready to go, I mean, Vladimir Putin better watch out, right?
And its vehicles dating from 1920s are armoured Rolls Royce, all the way up to Challenger 1s, Dukedom, CBRTs. So it's a huge range of vehicles from United Kingdoms, America, Russia, German vehicles as well. So
it's a difficult task, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because everyone does things slightly differently as well, which I've noticed in my time here. Like the Russians will first parade or build something slightly different to the Germans and the British. So everyone's got their own way of doing things, as it were.
Well, but all these vehicles are reflections of the cultures that produce them,
definitely.
right?
Yeah.
So the British way of going at things maybe is to bring them in under budget. The American way of doing them is having everything kind of A-OK, right? And the German is, get into ideas about efficiency and all that sort of thing, right?
Definitely.
What's the next really big mega project? Because I have a fair idea.
It's our pre-production Tiger 2 V2. Some of the parts are in the workshop at the moment. We're going to bring that vehicle back in after Tiger Day for the evaluation stage of it. So start actually taking opens off, seeing what we have and seeing what's missing, which is quite a bit. But that's the museums.
And this is with the Porsche turret on the
pre-production, the Porsche turret.
And that's basically in tank terms a unicorn, right?
Yeah, so it's the second King Tiger off the production line as well, so the oldest surviving King Tiger in existence. Unique because that's the only surviving turret as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of uniques going on with that project, and we don't just want to strip it and just take all of its originality away from it. We plan to tastefully restore the vehicle so we preserve some of its history.
So it's kind of it has that prototype vibe about it.
Yeah, and also we don't want to strip stuff down to its bare metal and paint new on it. We plan to keep some of the parts as original as it is now. We're looking at it.
Okay, and that's a how long is a piece of string question, isn't it?
4 years.
4 years, we're being told.
4 years.
But that's a joint project, so we won't be doing everything in house. We'll have to have help with other specialists around the world, but they've already done some of these projects in the past, so we're using some of their expertise to help us with it.
Some of their thoughts and notes.
Exactly.
I mean, how much crossover is there though with agricultural machinery, say, because these are great big dirty kind of agricultural vehicles in one sense. Is there something if you need parts and bearings and stuff? Is that something you can do?
Interesting, a lot of it is we had recently some issues with the Panzer III, wasn't it? The wheel bearings on that, we actually could get them pretty much off a shelf.
Really?
To the bearing factors, take the measurements and just get a modern day replacement for that bearing.
That is amazing.
At the end of the day, it's a roller bearing of a certain size.
Yeah.
Match it to a current off the shelf.
Well, that is fascinating. I don't think because because the engineering, obviously, engineering isn't a sort of thing that has just ends. That
No.
Innovations and ideas that work can go into any application, right?
Yeah,
Like a lot of the vehicles were used after the war, weren't they? So
Yeah.
like the Tigers, the King Tigers, they took the turrets off and put cranes on them.
Yep.
So for many years after the war, I guess people were doing the same. They were trying to keep them going. So
Yeah. Well, and the French with their Panthers and all that,
Yeah.
all that stuff as well. Well, I'll tell you what. Coming in here, you get the, there's the smell of it. There's the no, seriously.
Sorry.
Because in the museum,
Yeah,
the
definitely.
museum side of things are presented in pristine condition, or they're presented as examples of things. These, because they're runners, because these leak oil, don't they? They have gears that go wrong and clutches that jam and all that sort of thing, because they're living, breathing items. And it's really cool to be back here and being in amongst it. Thanks very much, gents.
Okay.
I don't know. You really want American tanks in here, though. We want British stuff.
We have to cover them all, unfortunately.
Well, I'm here to look at tanks, but look what I found, this ridiculous confection of German engineering. Can someone explain this? Take me through this. Aaron, help me out here.
What do you want to know?
Well, tell the viewer who's going, what the hell is this thing? What it is?
This is a piece of German engineering known as the Kettenkrad.
The Kettenkrad.
Yes. Well, you can see German engineering turning a bike to the extreme, really.
Yeah, so it's it's not a tank though, is it?
No, not really. Well, no, it hasn't.
It's got tracks on it.
Yes.
Doesn't mean it's a tank.
No.
Right. Okay. But it's kind of a motorbike, but it's a tracked motorbike. What's that? What are they going to do with this then?
So obviously tracks is help for getting cross country, so transporting stuff. They will also have trailers fitted at the back of these.
Yeah.
But really your posh way to get across the battlefield.
It's for showing off.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
It completely is.
Yeah. How do you steer it? Do you steer? I mean.
So yeah, you're looking at the front of the vehicle here. You immediately think, oh, you're steering by the handles and the wheel. The actual fact is, if you got rid of that tyre now, you'd still be able to drive, turn left and right. Really, that tyre is there for stabilisation over rough terrain. When you're actually turning the handlebars, you're applying the brakes to the tracks like you would in a tank.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So it's not for show exactly, but it's not entirely necessary.
Exactly.
Okay. Brilliant. And what are the tracks? So there's rubber on the tracks.
Yep. It's actually, yet again, another extremely complicated German design with the suspension, the tracks, or the interlocking wheels.
Right.
All of the actual track links are lubricated individually to add to the maintenance schedule of it.
Right.
But yeah, still a very unique, cool looking vehicle.
And what's the engine?
So we got an Opel engine in the back here. Carburetor on top, oil filter on the right here, cooling system then goes out the back to a giant cooling fan underneath these seats here.
Right, so if you're sat at the back, you're going to have a warm ride,
Yeah,
right?
you are indeed, especially as a driver as well, with that engine pooping around.
And this is in desert colours, so you're driving around in the heat in the desert with this with the exhaust belching onto you on the back seat.
Exactly, a comfortable ride.
Comfortable ride, okay, but it looks cool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd make an impression, wouldn't you?
Exactly, you're turning up to this, yeah, people will know you've arrived.
Well, brilliant. Well, thanks very much, Aaron. I mean, I must get one. Like and subscribe to WW2headquarters.com if you want to see more of this kind of German nonsense. This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it. It's a monster, and you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in. Why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit. Unless we want war with Scotland, right? But they are part of the we here,
yes,
right?
Very much so.
Yes, of course. And our Scottish viewers, you know what I was doing there.
Just like, oh, that's a very big gun, Craig.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, tanks are exploding everywhere. Unlike that thing.
That's not the Italians coming by now.
No, that's the British Army.
Welcome to WW2 headquarters.com with me, Al Murray. James Holland is not here to my right because why would I want to stand next to Jim when I could stand next to this? Tank Infantry Mark IIA, a Matilda II, because I'm at the Tank Museum to talk about British tanks. Now the thing is British tanks have, well, in the popular imagination perhaps they've not got the best reputation, but I'm here to make the case for the most important tanks of the Second World War being British, and indeed the best tanks of the Second World War being British also. And you can't start anywhere better to make that argument than with this beautiful Matilda II. I mean, just look at it. Look at this, 75 millimeters of cast steel as its armour protection. The 2-pounder, the absolute apogee of anti-tank weaponry, of tank weaponry at the start of the Second World War, first couple of years of the Second World War. This has got everything. This tank, yeah, is a sweet ride, ladies and gentlemen. And we're going to have a good look at the Matilda II. We're going to have a glance at a Churchill, perhaps, and also then sum up with the beautiful Comet, which is basically the best tank of World War II. And you Panther fans can stick it up your... So, the Matilda II, what is this tank and why have the British got it right at the start of the Second World War? Well, in between the wars, you've had the introduction of the tank in the First World War, British invention, the land ship, Winston Churchill's involvement, all that stuff, all that yada yada. But between the wars, there's a lot of discussion about what to do in terms of armoured fighting vehicles. A lot of discussion because there's really not very much money. What the British defence establishment is really spending money on is the Admiralty. It's on battleships. And all the argument between the wars is about battleships and limitations on battleship sizes and all this sort of stuff. In fact, it's the stuff of international diplomacy. So the tank is way down the pecking order. British Army, of course, is hoping never have to fight another First World War type encounter ever again. But there are people, the Royal Armoured Corps, Royal Tank Regiment, who are having a good think about what the problems are. And then there are also other people, intellectuals, arguing in the public sphere about what tanks should be, what they can be. But you've got to put your money where your mouth is in defence procurement or offensive procurement. And the British struggle to come up with an answer to what a tank should be. They arrive at two concepts. The infantry tank, which moves at kind of walking pace, supports infantry. It's with the chaps on the ground, say there's a gun emplacement that needs taking out, the tank offers fire support for that. And I think the idea is generally puts the willies into the opposing infantry. Or the cruiser tank, which is a faster, lighter tank that can go quicker and will, once they've broken through, will get out cavalry style really and get into the enemy's rear area and cause havoc. Now the Matilda II is an infantry tank. By the time the war comes, it's basically the second effort that the British have got in place. There's the Matilda I. Now, to describe the Matilda I as a tank really is kind of going far. It looks like a glorified lawnmower, really. It's ugly, right? It's really, really ugly. It's small. It's armed with machine guns. It's, I mean, if you want to stand and point at a tank and go ha ha at the failure of defence procurement, the Matilda I is your ideal target. But this thing, Matilda II, is of a completely different order and is an incredibly successful piece of kit. And what we're going to do, we're going to speak to one of the historians here at the Tank Museum to talk about the Matilda II and how it came to be such a successful type and how, like all the great comedians of the era, it has immaculate timing. So James, before we get into this wonderful tank, in my setup there, what I did was what lots of people do, where they zoom in on the tank and how things pan out for it when the war actually comes, and drop an awful lot of the context, ignore an awful lot of the context around the vehicle, because I talked about procurement, but in fact, I was talking about tank procurement for the possibility of a war in Europe, but there's a much bigger picture here at work, isn't there?
Yes, I mean, really for the Armoured Corps, this starts at the end of the First World War. So we're boring everybody a little bit too much about, non-World War II things. But the Armoured Corps takes on armoured cars in the early 20s because it needs to retain relevance and keep alive as this new corps. But then it goes into a situation where it's got the armoured cars, it's going then out to Northwest Frontier in India, it's going out to places like Egypt, and proper empire policing duties. And then they realised, well, armoured cars are great and all, but we do want tanks. We are the Royal Tank Corps at the end of the day. So they start developing light tanks. And these light tanks, again, very expeditionary, And by the time we get to the early 30s, these light tanks are doing another core function. They're teaching industry.
Yeah.
So they're teaching industry on something that's actually quite basic, like the Light Mark 6B or what 6 is, only armed with machine guns, but they're really basic, and they're teaching industry that may have built trains beforehand or something like that, how to build armoured fighting vehicles. And then when mid-30s, everything starts to heat up in Europe a little bit, and we're angling towards, well, maybe we're not just doing empire policing. The 10-year rule goes out the window.
Yeah.
We're looking at ramping up. Yes, Chamberlain comes back with the old
Piece of paper.
yeah, but actually he's buying time.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more of a fan of Chamberlain.
That's, I think, a completely conventional point of view, actually,
Yeah.
isn't it? Is that he is buying time, and one of the products of that time that's bought is this vehicle. But
Yeah.
I mean, the really important thing to remember, because one of the great criticisms of British tank design is that the armament is always lagging behind
Yes.
the tempo of development, and that's because every single vehicle that the British Army wants to deploy has to be deployed overseas.
Yeah.
We don't have, unless we want war with Scotland, right? But they are part of the we here,
Yes,
right?
very much so.
Yes, of course. And our Scottish viewers, you know what I was doing there. We were just having some fun. But the point is everything's got to fit in a ship, and more importantly, on a train.
Yeah.
Because this is railhead stuff, and that means what you can fit on a train is the tail kind of wagging the dog, right?
Very much so. It's, we're completely reliant on the size of, it's not even just the tracks, it's the tunnels.
Yeah.
And that also goes back to pre-Victorian era. So, we'll go back and back and back, but actually the impact on British tank design, it has to get on a train to get anywhere, because we don't build low loaders.
Yeah.
We've got a few knocking around, yeah,
Well, but we don't have the roads either.
road network.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of Dorset.
Yeah.
It's not improved much since 1945, really. But it's, and everything is impacted by that requirement until we get to Centurion.
Yeah. But this raises the question: why? These are all the restrictions on what the British are able to design and produce. Why is this so good then?
Is good in that first part of the war, 100%, because it's got that armour.
Yeah.
It's got the armour to take on basically anything apart from anything the Germans can field apart from the 88 at Arras. I mean, even at Arras, we don't know it's the 88 knocking it out.
No.
We're just like, oh, that's a very big gun, crikey.
Yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. Our tanks are exploding everywhere. And that gun is pretty good.
It's a pop gun once you get to the desert, the 2-pounder, where the ranges are suddenly the issue, actually. Because in close combat in Europe, which is what this has been designed for, it's
brilliant.
Someone coming round a corner and you're fixing him at close distance, it's a really good bit of kit, isn't it?
I mean, even in that early part of the Desert War, where we're dealing with unupgraded Panzer IIIs and IVs, and especially the Italians, it's more than good enough.
Yeah.
But it's when the Germans start putting on a little bit more armour.
Wow, taking this a bit more seriously.
Yeah.
So because
that bang, bang, bang all the way up, isn't
exactly.
it?
Well, and it's cause and effect, and every action is an equal opposite reaction in terms of arms development. So, but I think let's talk about the vehicle itself. So it's 2 bus engines.
Yes.
Right?
We had them
in tandem, because we've got them. It's the 2-pounder, which we've talked about, which is a 40mm weapon.
Yeah, 40mm.
Which fires a very high velocity round. The HE shell that goes with it is a bit pants.
Yes, heard it described as the same explosive impact as a grenade.
Right.
Which is great if you're trying to lob a grenade at someone.
Yeah.
So if you're closing in on a trench system or something like that, I can see its value there. We basically develop it off the Bofors for the Navy. It's the same sort of explosive mass. And if you're dealing with an anti-tank screen, actually, if you get close enough, lobbing grenades at pretty quick succession is going to do some damage. But for high explosive, we really go for the close support variant as well. So a lot of people don't realise that we've got the 2-pounder equipped Matildas. Yeah. We've also got the howitzer equipped Matildas.
Right.
That's primarily there again into war doctrine. We're realising the Armour Corps needs smoke.
Yeah.
You need to conceal its advances, but actually, the side effect of that is it can lob HE at things. So we do pair them off. So
Right.
it's not completely useless, but obviously having a dual purpose weapon is always better than it being split, but we don't.
But
so.
this is but that turns into an ongoing, essentially endless problem.
Yes.
As the war progresses.
Yeah.
Because you always find yourself in a slightly different situation to the one you're equipped with, which is after all the interface between soldiers, engineers, and the people with the checkbook.
Yeah.
And then reality, the reality of combat.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, so what do you think is the Matilda's finest moment? Because I contend that this is actually one of the most important tanks of the war.
In terms of boiling it down to a specific turning point, a specific moment, it has to be Arras, really. You know, the German armoured spearhead under Rommel is pushing towards the coastline. We're trying to scramble a bit of resistance together. We try to actually coordinate with the French to properly pincer the Germans in this sort of long, vaguely unprotected spearhead that they've pushed through. Communications not being anybody's strong point in 1940, apart from the Germans, meant that it ends up just being a British sort of blunting attack. It was never going to be any more than that, really, but it did scare the Germans.
Well,
to thinking about what was happening, actually.
Yeah, and it gives Rommel a fright, for instance, doesn't it? But that's an attack done with old cavalry hand signals. It's Matilda I's as well, the sort of lawnmowers, and I mean a handful of these is the fact. It's the fact of the matter.
We've not deployed many of them. Matilda I is still sort of the main bulk of the tank brigades at that point, the infantry support element. We're really not pushing these out. But by September 39, 3 Matilda II have been delivered to the British Army. So we're not doing armoured spearheads into Europe by that point. But you know, I can't think of the numbers off of my head. But we're dealing with mixed regiments still. So you'd have squadrons of one, squadrons of the other.
I mean, the Arras counterattack arguably is part of how the Germans rethink the moment they find themselves in, and is part of the picture that leads to the halt order.
Absolutely.
When Hitler says, "Okay, we're stopping now," and the BEF is able to get away at Dunkirk, and if you think of the war, and I'm not really a fan of what ifs, but let's say the BEF doesn't get away. The political picture for a British government, even a Churchill government, which is saying never surrender, is very different with 300,000 guys in the bag, right?
Yes, you can't really sort of go there to an extent because it changes the optics. Even though the Germans don't invade, we don't need the British Army to defend Britain in that aspect.
300,000 hostages in essence.
Yeah, and what really is critical, especially for the armoured corps, coming out of Dunkirk, is we lose all the equipment.
Yeah.
All that's gone. We're never going to get that back. We're going to have to restart, building new stuff. But that nucleus of that experience coming out of France is what we then deploy to the desert.
Yeah. And then the Matilda in the desert does really well in Operation Compass, where the Italians suffer a colossal defeat, hundreds of thousands of guys going into the bag. Dick O'Connor's running rampant, and the Matilda is absolutely central to that. And there's all those sort of stories of the Italian armour, which is worse than British armour, having really bad time of it against this tank.
Yeah, I mean, to give the Italians a tiny little bit of credit. Yeah. Their vehicles, vast majority of them, designed for mountain fighting. Yeah. So they're going to be smaller, they're going to be lighter. They're not, unlike that thing.
That's not the Italians coming by now.
No, that's the British Army. Supercharged V12, lovely and supple.
Carry on.
So when they encounter British armour that is heavy, that is designed to take hits from, actually we're looking at what the Germans are doing, going, we need to defeat that, the Italians aren't going to have an answer to it. Yeah. There's many accounts of, I mean, the war in North Africa a lot of the time is anti-tank gun lines versus tanks. Yeah. And these things are just driving into the Italian anti-tank, at point blank range. The Italians can't penetrate the Matilda. They're literally driving over them at certain points, which is, well, when we try to do that to the Germans a little bit later on, we get a rather nasty surprise.
Slightly different result ensues, yes. But its place in history is assured because of the Arras counterattack, and then actually
Queen of the Desert.
The Queen of the Desert. Okay, so that's one of our British tanks, the case for which I think has been thoroughly made. Probably the most important tank of the Second World War, because you don't get Dunkirk without this, and you don't get, without Dunkirk you don't get the Battle of Britain, and without the Battle of Britain you don't get Barbarossa, and without Barbarossa you don't get Stalingrad, and without Stalingrad you don't get Tunisia, and then without Tunisia you don't get Sicily, then you don't get Italy, then you don't get Kursk, then you don't get D-Day, then you don't get VE Day. 1945, case made.
Faultless.
Thank you. So really, I think it's fair to say that the British get this tank right, apart from the fact that its limitations are its limitations. But if you need an armed fighting vehicle to give the Germans a scare,
Yep.
in 1940,
It's this. And I think it's worth bearing in mind with all British tanks in this period, they are limited by doctrine.
yeah,
You know, we don't have a doctrine for a medium tank.
No.
So we can't build a Sherman
Yeah.
if we're going by the letter of the law. So you end up with being divided into these two camps, and actually one of those camps being a heavily armoured, well-protected infantry tank, it pretty much nails the spec.
yeah, bingo, exactly. And actually, the Australians find it fairly adaptable, don't they? They put
Yeah.
flame throwers on it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
you can do stuff
But that's
with
also the advantage to the theatre then, where they're just being left to their own devices. And they haven't got the War Office breathing down their neck saying, you know, you need this, you need to do this with it, do that with it.
Yes, they're very focused on that one specific theatre with that one specific type of fighting, you know, either that be beach landings into jungle or just fighting through jungle.
Okay, so I think we've convincingly made the case between us that this is a really important vehicle in the story of armoured fighting vehicles in the Second World War.
Absolutely.
And if only because, as you said, it shows the limitations not only of its design but the doctrine that birthed it. Until you change how you think about the thing, you can't produce a thing to match that thinking, because the thinking doesn't exist yet.
Exactly. You know,
Exactly.
we still think that the idea of the cruiser and the infantry tank is still going to be valid, even when we realise it kind of isn't.
Yeah.
That's what we're set up for. It's
Yeah.
the training. It's all of the pipeline to get the vehicle into action.
Yeah. Once you've laid down those tram lines in terms of doctrine and production, because after all, the interface is not just between the people writing the doctrine, it's industry's capability of delivering. It's what turns out in the theatre. Because after all, this is a tank designed for Northwest Europe that's fighting in the desert, the jungle, and the Russian steppes.
Yeah.
Right.
So for a vehicle hamstrung by doctrine, arguably, it doesn't do too badly.
Yeah. So James, obviously one of the things about a British tank is because of the railway gauge restriction on it, you have to cram everything in, don't you? Right.
Yeah.
So this turret is, I mean, there's three guys in there, right?
Yeah, I don't know how they all fit, really. One of the things, a lot of tanks this period are like that, is that you've got a loader and his job is to put said round into breech. And I'm not entirely sure how you're supposed to move it past the body kind of situation.
Yeah.
No, it's properly cramped, but three-man turrets are infinitely better than any other option.
Yeah, because a two-man turret, how is someone supposed to run the tank and run a gun?
You've got to run the tank, you've got to then potentially run the formation and communicate with everybody. And the French just do it worse with a one-man turret, which is just catastrophic.
It's all packed in, but armour is very much featured. So these things, this is an armoured radiator, right?
Yes, there's armoured engine deck covers. We're really looking to protect this tank, keep it in the fight as long as possible.
Yeah.
And when you look at infantry tanks, and dare I say it, even the main battle tank, British doctrine, it's really keeping that vehicle alive as much as possible.
Right.
We know we're not going to be able to make that many early on, so I assume part of the thought process was, let's make it as strong as possible.
So it'll last.
Yeah.
And then these are mud chutes, right?
Yes. The idea was...
Because often, most tanks, you can see the suspension, it's all laid out clear for you.
Yes. This thing, it's great because it means that your tracks aren't going to get clogged with mud. They get scooped off and shoveled down the side.
Right.
Downside is then maintenance.
Okay, yeah.
Always a trade-off. To actually get to the suspension units on this tank, is this comes off.
Right.
Or near, you can take panels off, etc. But you're really having to take significant, take time to actually sort of maintain this vehicle.
And that's also a complication of weight.
Yeah.
So loading. So you've got the thing you gain and then the things you lose.
It's that fairly old-fashioned, but it's a nice way, obviously, describing it, the iron triangle. It's really quite basic, and there's probably a few more bits that need to be sort of worked into there, but that's it.
The iron triangle for those.
Of course.
I mean, if you're watching this, the chances are you know what that is. But go on.
But yes, mobility, firepower, and protection.
Yeah.
But then also within that, you can't forget maintenance. You can't forget logistics.
Well, and manufacturability.
Yeah.
You know,
all of that stuff is really useful. Well,
but, I mean, what it really comes down to though is, I mean, because this is the cast steel, isn't it?
Yeah. The front is very much a casting,
which means no rivets pinging around inside.
Yes.
If you're struck by a round, right?
Yeah, it takes the British a while to get to welding. The Germans start doing. Actually, the Swedes are doing it really early on. It is extremely difficult to weld armoured steel.
Yeah.
So casting is your best sort of middle ground. Actually, it's better, but it's more time inducive. Yeah. We do rivet as well. Obviously, we do have rivets and bolts on this. But you're right in saying that if that does get hit, it's an inherent weak spot.
Yes, they zip around inside the tank, hitting soft things like people.
Yeah, less than ideal.
As well as France and the desert, the Soviets take a load of these, don't they, in Lend-Lease from us?
Yes, so I mean those Arctic convoys are absolutely vital to keep the Soviets in the war in the early part of Barbarossa. And they use these, and they like them because they're diesel. Yeah. Diesel's obviously much more sort of a safe form of transport by this point. The armour is really good because they're dealing with the same weapons that the Germans are dealing with, or the Germans are dishing out to them. By the time we start to get to the 50mm, that's what's knocking this out in the desert. It's not the 88 actually that really terrifies them, it's the 50. That's going through. The Germans are learning this, but the Russians are still using it because not everything has an anti-tank gun, not everything has this.
Hang on.
Yeah, well.
Subtle. Occupational hazard.
Yeah. But they survive on, and I think till about 1944 with the Russians.
And they outgun it. They successfully outgun it, don't they?
Successfully. They trial. You're thinking of the 76?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, successfully. It gets in the turret.
It's got a different. They've got a different way of looking at things.
Yeah,
right,
I don't think they really deploy it because by that point you've got enough T-34s to not be worrying about it. But yeah, they knock around for a concerningly long amount of time against the Germans.
And then the Australians are using these. Yeah. So basically, as well as the significant battles in France and North Africa, where this tank does really well, it's doing well in its infantry tank role in the jungle with the Australians, which is incredible.
It really is. Going back to what I said earlier, the Australians really like the howitzer version. Right. So they retrofit a load of their 2-pounders with the 3-inch howitzer because in a jungle environment, that's really quite handy.
Well, you're not coming in, you're not fighting armour.
No, and if you do, well, you're overmatched pretty much anything that Japanese can chuck at you. The other benefit of this is it's small. Yeah. You can get it on landing craft, you can get it through jungle passages. It's that sort of the mobility side of this is fantastic, and they're readily available.
Okay, so basically what you've done there, James, is made a case for an entirely successful piece of British tank procurement.
Yes. There are caveats to that, slightly, which, could go into. It's completely unupgradable.
Yeah.
This is its final form, really.
Yeah.
You're not getting any more armour onto this. You're not getting a better gun. You can't put the 6-pounder in this, for example. You need a bigger turret ring. You can't get a bigger turret ring on. Engines, you probably could try, but there's kind of no point because you can't get more armour on it. Yeah. It is slow. Yeah. And for an infantry tank, fine. But if you're trying to push it anything more than that, it's kind of a bit flat. But that's really its limitation, is that we max the design out, partly due to cost restraints and all this sort of stuff. But the upgradability, which is what you want from a tank design, which is what the Germans pretty much nail early on, we really struggle with it.
So the verdict on the Matilda II, I mean, obviously I'm engaging in a little mild peppering and hyperbole here by saying it's the most important tank of the war, right?
Well, we've claimed it from time to time as well. Yeah.
But
obviously it's the thinking that's the thinking that's key to understanding these vehicles. The thinking that's gone into this, the role that's been conceived for. Yeah. And it does really well in that role.
Yeah, it doesn't just come out of a vacuum in terms of who's thinking about it and when.
Yeah.
The people who were thinking about this in the interwar period fought at Cambrai, they fought in the 100 Days Offensive. They've seen what tanks can do.
Yeah.
And this is this plodding along in the interwar period. So by the time we get to the late 30s, we've actually got an idea of what we want from a tank force. Yeah. There is no budget to do it. Yeah. And I'm sure if there was a bigger budget from about 1933, we would have been in a completely different situation. But actually, on a reasonably tight budget, within the confines of a doctrine, it smashes it, really.
And the reason this isn't like faster is because they don't want a faster tank. And the reason the reason it hasn't got a more powerful gun is because they don't need it at the moment it comes along. Its problem is it can't be upgraded, but kind of so what? Because the British thinking is this war is going to not be over in 6 weeks. In Northwest Europe, it's going to grind on, and then we'll have time to make plenty more of these and whatever we're going to do next.
Because the funding priority, and rightly so, goes to the Air Force and the Navy. They need to be the one, defence of the realm and all of that. So we're like, right, we'll put an army into the field that we'll be able to hold. We'll do a 1914. This thing is designed to take on fixed fortifications. It really is sort of that, not fully a First World War vehicle, but it's designed in that ilk. But yeah, exactly. This isn't going to be the tank that finishes the war for the British, really.
No.
But yes, its downside is its limitations. It can't be upgraded, but it's still damn good.
It's damn good, and it does go all the way through the war.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, that'll do me. I mean, this is an excellent tank. In 1940, I would like and subscribe to the Matilda II, the way you can like and subscribe to WW2 headquarters.com. And join us for our next film when we talk about the Churchill tank, which is, in terms of British tank procurement, is a rags to riches story.
Yes.
From humble origins.
So. Yes, serves until, Korea.
Yeah, there we are, I see. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for watching. See you soon.
This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not?
Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit.
What's that coming over the hill? It's a monster, and it's a Churchill tank. You're making quite a strong case here, James, for this being one of the best tanks of the Second World War. Probably the best tank of the Second World War. Look at it. Heavy metal. Hello there, it's Al Murray here for WW2 headquarters.com at the Tank Museum. And obviously the Tank Museum is very well known for Tiger 131, the Tiger tank that people flock here to see. But parked round the corner in a sunny glade is this absolute beast. What's that coming over the hill? It's a monster, and it's a Churchill tank. Now, we're going to look at the history of the Churchill tank in this film, and we're going to see that it doesn't get off to a very good start, but in a way that's the story of the British war effort. Stutters a bit to get going, when it gets going, but once things are underway, crushing everything in its path. And this tank exemplifies that exact arc, that story of the humble few clinging on in the face of Nazi aggression to the absolute steamrolling German army crushing and devouring machine that the British Army is by the end of the Second World War. And this tank exemplifies that perfectly. The Churchill, look at it, heavy metal. Well, we've talked about in previous films the iron triangle: protection, maneuverability, firepower. And of course the Churchill, it's got like a vertical armoured plate, and what we want is one at an angle to reflect. No. What they do with the Churchill, right? Yeah, it's a vertical armoured plate. They just stick more armour on it. They just make it even thicker. Look how much protection there is at the front of this tank. It's delicious. One of the things the Churchill's got going for it is really, really brilliant on very, very steep terrain. This tank can turn up exactly where the infantry need it to. It's an infantry tank after all, and that's one of its real bonus features. Plus, escape hatches. Crews like this tank because you can get out of it when it gets into trouble. Yeah, a really, really important feature. I mean, who wants to burn to death in a steel coffin, basically? The Churchill, because it's a wider tank, has got the turret ring that it basically can support any of the weapons the British Army need for it. 6-pounder, 75mm, the flying dustbin, easily my favourite piece of kit on a Churchill of the Second World War. On the Avery, a spigot mortar round for knocking down emplacements. This is a really, really great weapons platform. So it's got protection for the crew, the super thick armour, and the escape hatches. It's got manoeuvrability, you can get where you need it to, and of course, it's got firepower. The Churchill absolutely nails the iron triangle. You can't argue with that, but it didn't to start with, and we need to look at the origins of this tank and its somewhat checkered early development with James now from the Tank Museum. So James, it's fair to say that the Churchill tank doesn't get off to the best start, and in fact we're leaning on a feature of the Churchill that exemplifies kind of the literally upside down thinking that goes into this tank when it's first brought out.
Yeah, I mean, this sort of I don't understand it. So this is the later mark, the sensible one. This is the air intake for the engine, and the earlier ones, which we've got an example of in the museum, is the down. So it sucks up all the stuff getting chucked up off the tracks
into the air intake.
Into the air intake. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, there's certain bits with this vehicle, it gets off to a really rough start. It's really rushed getting into service and all this sort of thing. But I don't understand that as that's obviously going to happen kind of situation.
Yeah, it does. It does very much strike you as, I know you've not made any tanks before, right? Because that's what this comes down to. Is that it's Vauxhall are tasked with this. They've not made any tanks before.
No.
And really, in the grand scheme of things, nor has anybody, right?
No, not in the German sense or anything like that. Vickers are about the only one that keep it ticking over.
Yeah.
But they're only one company, and we need a lot more companies. So Vauxhall obviously come in, and their solution to everything is Churchill.
Yes.
It's just you need a new variant. Let's put a Churchill on it. But
yeah.
Early ones of these were proper bad.
They're bad, and also they're being given because after Dunkirk, of course, there is no kit. So there's a clean sheet of paper.
Yeah.
There's the invasion scare. So you need armoured fighting vehicles. You need tanks. You need them right now.
Yes.
And
we come up with absolute howlers of armoured vehicles in that period.
Yeah, exactly, and that leads to tanks with air intakes that suck mud into themselves. But also an army that, the expansion of armour is seen as the solution to blitzkrieg, as it were. Sort of Blitzkrieg is going to be lots of tanks, and obviously you've got an entire population who aren't mechanically minded. So you do get this phase of when the Churchills arrive with units. They're reading the manual. It says tighten the nuts once a week or whatever. They tighten them to the point where they break them, and there's all that going on, right?
Yeah, so it really is that we want tanks, we want them quickly, we want them now. No one was happy with the Churchill when it came out.
Yeah, Churchill says, you've named it after me because it's no good, right?
Basically. Obviously, it's not named after him explicitly.
No,
it's named after his granddad.
Yeah.
But, sure.
Yeah.
How to secure a project's longevity, name it after the Prime Minister. But they're aware it's not very good, but it is pushed out because it's better than nothing.
Yes.
Another criticism is that when the thing's going along, the crew can't see anything because the dust gets everywhere.
Yeah.
They're having to wear goggles, and the goggles aren't doing anything.
Yeah.
So even trying to fight the vehicle is an absolute nightmare. But they know that you open up the manual and the first page basically says that. They admit it's not very good, but we will improve it. We will get the upgrades to you. And Vauxhall is not just that. They take it back to the factory. They rework it completely from the ground up.
Yep.
And you end up with, the Mark III is still a bit on the sort of the dodgy side of it, but by the time we get to the Mark IV, it's a really very good tank.
Yeah, it's a great bit of kit. It's reliable. It can go anywhere.
Yeah.
It's a good gun platform.
Yeah.
And the crew are very well protected.
Yeah, you read the accounts of Churchill crew, and they're really complimentary of it because they can take hits. When they do take hits, they can get out. Because that's one of the other things. Actually, the hatches are quite big on this. Not, relatively speaking, obviously. But, you've even got escape hatch on the side. They're thinking about the crew a little bit more with this vehicle, but it's still going back to that infantry tank doctrine. We're going to need to cross trenches with it, attack fixed positions, all of this sort of stuff. So it's still arguably hamstrung by doctrine and railway loading gauges and all of this sort of stuff. But rocky start with this vehicle, but it does very prove itself by the end of the war. It's exceptional.
I mean, at Dieppe, the Germans capture some types, don't they, that are stranded, and they assess it and they go, well, this is a dog, and they can't imagine that the British are going to upgrade it and update it and improve it, can they?
No, I mean, even we're not sure. We go to the point of actually, Churchill, the programme looks to be on the edge of failing. What do we do? So the T-14, some of your slightly more tank-minded viewers might know it, but basically you get a Sherman and you make it a bit heavier, and you slap a bunch more armour on it, and you got what we now call, but kind of wrongly, the Excelsior, which if you look at it, it's a big Cromwell. And so they get this new tank that we're developing, the Cromwell, whatever, and make it into an infantry support vehicle. They get canned because the Churchill project actually proves itself.
Actually turns itself around.
Even the Brits aren't sure that we're going to continue with it.
I mean, the original types have a howitzer in the front, don't they? Which sort of beggars belief.
Yes, again, it's that idea of the 2-pounder. We need that to take out armour, but it's not very good at dealing with anything else. So what do we do? Well, we've got options. We've got a big tank. Let's put a howitzer in the hull. And it's not designed to take on anything else apart from it's a bunker buster. So you steer your vehicle towards where you want to fire and you open up. But they don't like it. It gets in the way. The gunner doesn't really have enough room. You're having to then carry an extra ammunition type, which really impedes on storage. So by the Mark II, the Mark I and the IIs are basically the same, apart from the Mark II, you rip the howitzer out and put a Beezer in it.
You could argue, though, that the cruiser the cruiser tank concept of going quickly is kind of like for the birds, really, because the fighting in Normandy is at walking pace, is about close country. You need an infantry support tank in that situation, right?
You very much do. And the way they're organised reflects that. So you've got, they go through various iterations of various different names, so I'm probably going to get it wrong, but tank brigades, armoured brigades in infantry divisions. So every British infantry division has integral armour support. Ideally, we want them Churchills. We don't have enough, so a bunch of them get Shermans as well. But we're, again, thinking that we know that they're going to come up into a situation where infantry are going to need tank support. And then we put the cruisers, well, by that point, it's Cromwell, and they go into either reconnaissance regiments, or actually they equip 7th Armoured Div. So we split them out in that way as well. So these aren't ever going to be for exploitation reasons. These are true infantry support.
Tanks. So let's talk about the Churchill's greatest hits. It's great actions.
Yes.
Proves itself in Tunisia, right?
Yes, it really does. It sort of fights those sort of later northern desert battles. But by the time we're getting into Tunisia, it's really showing its worth.
That is a battle where the Churchill really comes into its own because it can handle the terrain. It's a big infantry battle too.
You're not going to outrun the infantry with this thing. They're going to be able to keep up and not get too annoyed with you. And its armour is thick enough that it can get in the Germans' faces. By the Mark IV, you're looking at just over 100 mil of armour, which is the same as a Tiger. By the time you get to the Mark 7s and 8s, the heavy Churchills, they basically share like no components with each other, but they roughly a Churchill. That's 152 millimetres of frontal armour. Which is an absurd amount. It's not impenetrable. The anti-tank guns are still going to go through it. Side armour's still vulnerable. But actually it means you can risk that tank in certain situations that a Sherman is going to be hideously vulnerable
and
to.
Take a couple of knocks and maybe call it a day, but in the meantime you've kept fighting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I think the other thing that's really interesting about this is that quite clearly that this tank has had so much invested in it and has come good. The chassis then becomes kind of a solution to lots of problems, right?
Yes.
So it goes into the Avery and associated types. So you've got it with the bobbin on. You've got it, laying carpet. You've got it with the spigot mortar, the flying dustbin. All those variations, which suggest that you want something. You don't need something quick for any of those jobs.
Nope. You want something versatile.
Versatile and reliable.
Yeah.
And this is it.
And it's a big box.
Yeah.
The hull is a big box, which means you can do many things with a big
Yeah.
box. Something that you aren't going to be able to do on that Matilda.
Yeah.
You know, that hatch, for example, it sort of is an escape hatch, but actually on the Avery, it meant that some bloke can lean out, lob a Bangalore torpedo at a target, and from relative safety.
Yeah.
And it's got the armour to be able to deal with the close-in fortifications. You know, go across Normandy, and the Atlantic wall is strewn with instances of these things hitting targets.
And the 79th Armoured Division then are operating this devolved way where they're involved in everything. They never turn up as a division, but they're they're literally everywhere doing everything.
Yeah.
And these tanks are central to that. Crocodile and all those sort of. And Crocodile, in a way, is the purest distillation of the infantry tank.
Really is, yeah.
Isn't it? Role. And in a sense shows that the infantry tank concept, if you dig into it in the right circumstances, is fine.
Yes, it works.
Yeah.
You know, we did end up beating the Germans at the end of the day.
Yeah. Let's just take a moment to consider that. Yeah.
These things ground the Germans down.
Yeah.
Yes, as the Americans helped, I guess.
Yeah,
doing the whole Cobra
Let's
thing.
not overdo it. Yeah.
But these things are encountering German armoured forces in a concentration the Russians can only dream of.
Yeah.
You know, there's no concentration like they're getting in Normandy on the Eastern Front. So that they're grinding them down. They beat them, and then that allows the cruiser tanks to send it during the breakout in the Great Swamp.
Yeah, you get no breakout without the breakthrough, and these are the breakthrough tanks.
Yeah, really is. Really is.
Brilliant. And then the story doesn't end with the Second World War, though,
Certainly
because
not.
these things go to Korea.
Yeah, so one of the real sort of unsung parts of the Churchill, which was arguably by accident, is its climbing ability. Is it can go up anywhere. The multiple occasions where the Germans, you clearly see them on the map, and they go, well, no, that's not tank country, you're not going to be able to get there, we're not going to defend it particularly well. These can climb that. So when we're going out to Korea, we're deploying the Centurion for the first time, which is an unknown quantity in many aspects. Like, right, what happens if we need infantry support high up in mountains? Well, a squadron of these things, the Mark 7s, with the flamethrower attachments, go out.
Right.
Unfortunately for them, they do leave the flamethrowers at the dockside, which a few months later, when the Chinese start careening over the border, it probably would have been quite handy.
Useful, yeah.
But they do go into action in Korea. They do, most of them sort of get blown up and lost, but Centurion proves to be perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But this thing does stick around in British Army stocks for a fair while
Well,
after
then you're
1945.
making quite a strong case here, James, for this being one of the best tanks of the Second World War. Probably the best tank of the Second World War.
It has its limitations. I'm going to come back in with that. It's too slow.
Yeah.
It is simply too slow for the sorts of fighting that, especially people like Monty, want to start pushing for. You know, you look at the Orbats that when we're pushing through the Low Countries and all of this, it's Shermans, it's Cromwells. These things are sort of stuck in fillets, going, oh God, they've left me again.
Yeah, they cannot do that.
Yes, the latter stages of the war, when you're looking at the skirmishes, when we're fighting up to Hamburg, these things aren't getting a look in because the pace of armoured warfare is just so great. But they're limited.
But when it bogs down in Blackcock and Veritable and those battles, bang, absolutely.
These things can be bought up.
Okay. Brilliant. Well, I mean, what I like about the one thing I like about the Churchill is it does look very antiquated and very much does look of its time. But there's nothing wrong with that.
No, it's designed to cross trenches.
Yeah.
That's why it's so long, and you've got that track. It's not quite First World War-esque, but well, it's a track going all the way around the outside of a hull. You know, the influence has come from somewhere. But actually, there's those situations where you're fighting entrenched German positions where you do need to cross trenches. You do need to get in their face. And yet, it is limited, but actually it's limited, and it's more than good enough for most of what we need it for, actually.
One of the things that's, when you look at the photos from 45, is they're all covered with their own track, aren't they, as well?
Yeah.
And that the Churchill track is regarded as the absolute super alley track, isn't it? If you want protection.
Yeah. You whack it on.
You see Shermans with Churchill tracks sometimes, where they've obviously managed to purloin some.
Yeah. What's interesting as well is I didn't realise until recently, actually, a lot of Churchill track, we've bought it from the States.
Really?
Yeah. So we're not buying the tanks from the States, but we're buying the substitute components. And actually, one of my colleagues has still there's question marks over it, but it looks to appear like we've bought the kit.
Right.
So all the armour plate in the various different
Right,
pieces,
and then it's assembled.
shipped in from the States,
Oh,
assembled in the UK,
that's
which is
interesting.
really interesting.
That is fascinating.
Because our industry just cannot
Can't
keep
do
up
it.
with our demand.
Can't do it. Yeah, yeah.
And we've got a readily available and willing ally that's more than happy to
churn out steel parts.
Yeah.
Amazing. So in a sense, the Churchill is a story of good things come to those who wait.
Yeah, and people who invest in a programme and make sure it works.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we had time, the first Churchill that rolled off the production line and were given to the troops, it would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But again, we still had the capacity to think about other options during that. So we're doing it not quite on a shoestring budget at this point, but certainly within the limitations of industry that can actually be chucked out.
And the pure inexperience of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think obviously what this sort of represents is the apogee of the infantry tank idea. It's run its course through this vehicle, right?
Yeah, fully. But Matilda being the first two, Valentine is then used as, well, both depending on the situation, but it is technically a Matilda replacement. And then you end up with Churchill. And it goes from the deserts all the way through to Berlin, really.
Yeah.
And by the time we get to the Mark 7, that is a formidable bit of kit to be coming up against. It really is.
So, British tank procurement then is all terrible.
Yeah. The system behind the procurement certainly probably needs an analysis at some point. But the vehicles it chucks out, actually, they're what's asked of it most of the time.
Yeah, and these go to the Soviet Union as well, and they don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I think they find them all right. I think by the time that we're sort of getting these things out, that they're very much wedded to the T-34, and it's very hard to break them away from that because they've got a tank, and a tank will do.
That will suffice. But I think what we've done there conclusively is make the case that this is one of the absolute runners and very slow riders. I mean, walkers and slow riders in the success of British tank procurement during the Second World War, and actually the sort of perfect marriage of the doctrine and the piece of kit provided to meet that doctrine. Thanks for watching WW2headquarters.com with me, Al Murray, and James from the Tank Museum. Or is it James Holland reincarnated as a slightly younger, more handsome and better dressed version? We'll never know, will we? And please do like and subscribe in the way that Vauxhall liked and subscribed to this tank for several years until they got it right. See you soon. This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit. The return of the king. The Comet, ladies and gentlemen, the finest tank of the Second World War. No arguments. This is about evolving and developing that way, and taking the things you know work, and also the things you've tooled a factory for. After all, you know, this doesn't have a reversing beat, does it?
No, I don't think
so. That's not us. Great. Hello there, I'm Al Murray and I'm here at the Tank Museum for WW2headquarters.com, and I'm here to tell you the story, the third act of this incredible drama about British armour. Yes, in Act 1 we looked at the Matilda II, not the world's snazziest tank, but perfect for the moment. Then of course the Phoenix from the Flames story of the Churchill tank. It starts out a dog, but it ends up a supreme fighting wolf. And then finally, the third act, when all our threads are drawn together in a beautiful conclusion, the return of the king, the Comet, ladies and gentlemen, the finest tank of the Second World War. No arguments. Yes. Join me as I look at this extraordinary piece of British technology, proof that the British can make a tank, they can actually deliver it, and when they do, the war's nearly ended. Let's not get hung up on that. Enjoy. Okay, so the Comet, like the astral phenomenon it's named after, is truly dazzling to behold. Look, this tank has got everything it could possibly want. A Christie suspension, but with these roller wheels at the top to keep the tracks clear. Slightly wider track than its predecessor, the Cromwell, which means this thing can get around. It can handle any terrain you throw at it. It's an amazing piece of kit. You've also got, inside here, a Meteor engine. So like it's a Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. You love Spitfires, that means you love Comets. Simple as that. We work our way around, smoke dispensers at the back, again, the wider tracks. And then, join me as we tickle our way towards, oh yes, the main armament. This, it's not a 17-pounder, this gun that is what makes the Comet absolutely unstoppable on the battlefield, can deal with anything the Germans throw at it. And of course, it's well armoured, the crew are well protected, it can go nice and quick, 30 miles an hour or so. It's just got everything. It's got absolutely everything you could possibly want. And what it's got chiefly in it is it's got all the good bits of British tank design throughout the war, all the ingenuity that can go into coming up with a really great piece of battlefield technology, and also the experience of the crews, the commanders, and the engineers to produce this absolute pinnacle of British armoured engineering in the Second World War that leads directly to the greatest tank of all time, the Centurion, which this is the chicken that's laying the Centurion egg. So James, here we are sat, we're not quite atop the Comet, but this is a tank that has digested the lessons of tank development. It's a kind of souped up Cromwell, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Same running gear, same chassis.
Same engine.
Alterations.
Yeah.
But the gun is the thing that is radically revolutionary, different, and the turret ring with it, right?
Yes, so I mean basically to upgun the Cromwell you need a bigger turret ring.
Right.
So to do that, it's sort of pushed out the upper hull, that was pushed out so you can get a bigger turret ring. But it fundamentally was never going to be big enough to take the 17-pounder. So despite what this one actually looks like, it's not a 17.
It's not a 17-pounder.
No.
It is, however, often confused, and very often in comments below videos.
Yes,
it's confused for a 17-pounder, right?
It's rather violent conversations on the internet. It uses components from the 17, but it starts off life as an independent venture by Vickers,
right,
wanting to build a high-velocity 75.
Yeah.
Basically fulfills the same role. Then some bright spark comes along and goes, well, if you increase the caliber by 1.2 mil.
So bore it out.
Yeah, pretty much, to get to 76.2 millimeters, we can use the 17-pounder projectile.
The projectile.
Yeah, physically just the projectile, because the cartridge case is still far too big to try and wield that. So the cartridge case and the breech block comes from this 75mm high velocity program. Some say the cartridge case comes from a 3.7-inch anti-aircraft gun, because it's wider but shorter.
Yeah.
Whether that is the case or it actually still stems from the 75 program, not really too sure. But it still actually does have the 17-pounder muzzle brake because it's a part and it's available.
Right.
So it looks very much like a 17-pounder, but if you put them next to each other, this is far shorter.
Yes, it's much shorter.
And the rounds are, again, much, much shorter.
Right.
But actually at ranges that you're going to be dealing with, you only end up really with a drop-off of penetration over about 1,200 metres.
Right.
So the vast majority of the situations, with the vast majority of stuff you're dealing with, this is just as good.
But wait, why are people convinced this is a 17-pounder though? I mean, how's that happened?
It's potentially slightly our fault here at the museum. We've done it on a number of vehicles. Well, no, it's definitely one of these. And like Togg's gun, that's a 17-pounder. No, just very much not. That's the other scale of things.
Right.
That's bigger than a 17-pounder. That's a 28-pounder.
Oh, okay.
That's basically they take a 3.7-inch anti-aircraft gun and wrangle it slightly. But no, I think we've been guilty of calling this a
Okay. It's interesting
17.
though, isn't it? Because around 75mm, 3 inches seems to be like a bore that everyone falls on. Because the 17-pounder, although it's much more powerful, as you said, is 76.2, so kind of 3 inches. It's interesting that the things gravitate down to that, isn't it?
Yeah, so again, it's like small arms, everything. There's sort of a set caliber for a certain output. You know, the Panzer Panzer IV having a 75, for example, Sherman having a 75.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason for it.
It's a kind of sweet spot, for how you make the ballistics work and everything.
And just to mention on this gun, its caliber is 76.2,
Right.
but they've called it 77mm for deconfliction. Because at one point in the British Army, we've got 76mm in service,
Yeah.
we've got the 3-inch in service,
Yeah.
we've got the 17-pounder, which is
Yeah.
76.2mm. We've then also got this one, and
Yeah.
then we've got a 75.
I think I've got all that. Yeah,
Quartermaster is going to have a nightmare if
yeah.
everything's 76.2mm, but no, not that one.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just call it 77 and be done with it.
Okay. Why does Comet only come to the part? Because it's they're training on it, aren't they? At the end of 44, it's delivered at the end of 44, and you get people switching wholesale to it. Why is it coming to theatre? I'm going to say the word late out loud. Why is it so late?
Again, you've got to look at Comet in any way. You have to go back to Cromwell.
Yeah.
And it gets derided and all of this, and I think it's very much an unsung vehicle for the British. Like, it is exceptional at its job.
I think it's a really great piece.
It is a good tank fundamentally. We start that program before we kind of even know Tiger exists.
Right.
So it takes ages to actually come to fruition. So by the time we've worked out the kinks in Cromwell, we've got that to final specification, as it's called. That's then going out to the frontline troops and then to the front itself.
Yeah.
They can then go, well, actually, we're going to need something with a bigger hole puncher in it.
Yeah.
So we've got the Cromwell chassis, we've got that works, we've got the drivetrain, the Merritt Brown gearbox, the Meteor engine, that fundamentally works. Right, what can we do relatively cheaply to make this vehicle a bit better? Because it is a Cromwell, just a bit bigger. You strip away nearly everything, and the base dimensions on this hull, pretty much that of a Cromwell.
I mean, in a way, there are plenty of examples of this in the war, though, like a Spitfire Mark 1 and a Mark 24. They're completely different aeroplanes, but they're fundamentally, at the core, they're the same thing. It's a similar kind of adaptation scale, right? Or the Sherman Michael, in the museum, and an M4E8.
Well, you even go back to the Grants.
Yeah.
On that, it's the same base vehicle.
Exactly. So what that shows actually is that you're evolving your designs rather than each time's a blank piece of paper.
Especially for the British cruiser programme. By the time we get A13's the first proper cruiser, Christie suspension, Crusader, that's an evolution of that.
Yeah.
It's even using early on the same physical track.
Yeah.
Same gun, etc. And then that evolves, and then we end up with the A27 programme, and I won't go into the details of that because we'd be here for
we haven't got time for that. We'll come back and make a special film about that at a later date.
But again, the evolution through that is very clear on well, actually that went that way, but we've tweaked it slightly and we've tweaked it this way, and you end up with this fundamentally. At the end
it's
of it.
interesting, isn't it? Because the German way of doing things, you have the Panzer 1, Panzer 2, Panzer 3, Panzer 4. They aren't, each time they're like a kind of fresh start, fresh chassis.
Yeah.
Whereas this is about evolving and developing that way, and taking the things work, and also the things you've tooled a factory for. After all, this doesn't have a reversing beep, does it?
No, I don't think
so. That's not
No,
us. Great.
no.
So what it's not about is saying to a factory, okay, fine, but you've got to completely retool. You can carry on. Your lines of production continue through, and the fact it's got the most produced aero engine the British use
just makes sense.
I mean, the only thing that feels faintly old-fashioned, if you want, on this is that you have a vertical plate here.
Yep.
But beyond that, the crew are really well protected, aren't they?
Yeah, that's 80mm frontal armour,
Right, okay.
which is Panzer IV territory, and that's perfectly fine by most people's estimations.
Yeah.
I mean, the only reason we're really sticking with a flat plate on this is because of that gun. You can't ball mount that for whatever reason, and then we was forced. It would be such an imperative to keep a hull machine gunner that actually we kept the front flat plate.
That's your compromise, your risk versus capability compromise. And also, this is the shape of the Cromwell. You're not altering that. You're sticking with what works, where it works.
And to crew retraining.
Yeah.
They're very, very minor. Now, the driver's got a bit more weight behind him, but that's not really a big deal on that score. Again, same transmission, same engine. Your gunnery course is going to have to be slightly more improved, but the supply lines, the retraining pipelines, yes, in December 44, when the bulge kicked off, they had their shiny new Comets taken off because they weren't quite trained to maximum, dropped back into Cromwells and sent out to should the British need to stem the advance. But actually, yeah, they ended up getting them properly sort of February, March time, I think, the next year.
And did the crews like them?
Yeah. Yeah, it's the best tank they've ever been in. You know,
Right.
some of these guys have come from the desert. They fought in Crusaders for crying out loud. You know, you get one of them in the morning, and it might start if it feels like it. You're constantly outgunned by the Germans. You're out armoured as well with them. And by the time we've got this thing, we're engaging Tigers at combat range. Yes, it's not going to take a hit from an 88, 100%, but it's not designed to.
Well, and also you're not going to give it the chance, are you? Because
No.
you can do something about it.
Yeah, and we've got better reconnaissance assets and all this sort of stuff.
And
So
air and everything, yeah.
one of the last actions of a Tiger in the Second World War was to get clapped from a Comet from the side.
Right.
I think it was 3 or 4 RTR.
Well, there we are. Good. Well, so I think we've conclusively made the case that this is the best tank of the Second World War.
Yes, absolutely.
And not only that, it's an example of the British tank procurement and development process that develops their fruit of which we have spoken.
And it's always worth putting into context. The Germans have a head start.
Yeah.
The French arguably have a head start because they're more focused on
land warfare.
Yeah, reasonably so. So we properly start kicking off in 38 in terms of tank programs, and then a few years later, well, we come out with this.
Well, we get Matilda right at the start of the war.
Not bad going.
But with a couple of years after that, once Churchill's been ironed out, Churchill's ready to rumble, and then we close the war with this.
Yeah, Cromwell serves extremely well. Then we get this to really top it off. And then the pièce de résistance of British tank design, Centurion, misses the war by a little bit. But actually that is a Second World War design. That is what British industry in that period can and does produce.
Yeah. So what we're saying here, James, in a roundabout way, I think it's fair to say, is that Britain is best?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
yeah.
brilliant, thanks. Well,
10 out of 10.
That concludes our 3-act drama, looking at the history of British tank development here at the Tank Museum for WW2headquarters.com. James, thanks for your expertise and your, I mean, to be honest, it's nice to make a film with someone who makes an effort. Sartorial, isn't it? Honestly, to not be presenting from this tank with someone as scruffy as James Holland is really quite a breakthrough, let's be honest now. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe. Cheerio. This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit.
Well, as I say, she's nicknamed Doris. She's big and ugly, but we love her.
God, this is snug, isn't it? It is, yeah. I mean, how'd you get out? Welcome to WW2 headquarters with me, Al Murray, here at the Tank Museum, and I'm joined at this beautiful Grant tank by one of the volunteers. Will, but you're not just a volunteer in the sort of more precise sense of it, that you maybe help me park my car and show me where the toilets are.
But I've been volunteering here for nearly 19 years.
Yeah.
And then I got more involved on the other side of the museum, on the trustee side and so forth. But actually the other fun bit of it is that I own a few of these, which is quite fun.
And so your volunteering extends to having your vehicles here at the museum for people
Yeah, I
to
mean,
see.
I started off like everybody else here. We have a fantastic number of volunteers. They do everything, sweeping the floor to just making events like tomorrow's Tiger Day run smoothly and man vehicles. But then I've been lucky enough to be able to start acquiring vehicles, and the idea here is the things I'm trying to do is to collect vehicles for the museum running collection that we don't have running here. So with my long involvement with the museum, the plan is to fill the gaps, and it's quite fun having them and restoring them over many years. So
yeah, amazing. Fun. And I mean, how many tanks have you got in your portfolio? Is that the right word for it? Collection?
I have to admit to 8.
8?
I can't tell you all of them.
No, of course not.
Couple of coming out soon.
Okay, fantastic. And this grant, N3 grant, you said it's, before we spoke earlier, it's come from Australia.
Yeah, a very nice gentleman called Rob Loudon. He's got his artillery and armour museum in Australia. There's quite a few grants ended up in Australia at the end of the war and because of the Burma campaign. So approached him and said, look, we really could do with one here for the running collection for the museum. I'm mad enough to try and get one. And we did a sort of vehicle swap and various things. And he said, okay, you can have one of mine. And we organised it, and it arrived last year, and it had its debut in end of June here. And so the first time running, it'd been a static for 10 years. They'd done a great job, but we hadn't got it running, and we had 5 weeks to get it going. And it worked, which is huge.
That's amazing. That's fantastic. And like, how much actual sort of work did it record? Did you have to take it apart?
No, I mean, it basically works on the final drive, work on the engine, new fuel tank, check the electrics, and basically reduce electrics to make them safe, just for running and starting and stopping, and check all that stuff. So basically it can run safely. And in the future, what we want to do is then, second phase would be to take it all apart, fully restore the interior and put it all back together again. And that's the idea.
And the thing with the grant as well, I think that, I mean, people who know their tanks know this, that this is sort of like a tadpole version of the Sherman.
Yes,
right?
it is.
That it's at some point going to like turn into a Sherman tank, but it's not quite there yet, right?
Exactly right. Sort of morphing into something that we vaguely recognise. But she's, well, as I say, she's nicknamed Doris. She's big and ugly, but we love her.
because I mean the turret, there is a turret, but it's got this 37mm cannon, and the main armament is 75. And when these first turned up in the desert for the British, they've got a gun with a bigger punch, but they're also very tall, and wide open spaces in the desert. That's
your problem, isn't it? I mean, that is the problem. No, it's not. I mean, it's a stopgap. I mean, nobody quite worked out how to put a 75 into a turret. Yeah. And so I think the stopgap was sort of look what the French had done earlier in the war, and then get this going. And I suppose it was good. You had high explosives coming here, but of course, if you fight a tank, it's best to be hulled down with a big gun just poking over the top of something, as opposed to exposing the whole tank to be able to use that weapon. Yeah.
I mean, you're very, very exposed. I mean, one of the things about it, when the British crews first get it, is they say how roomy it is inside, don't they?
It is roomy, but actually, I'm always surprised it was less roomy than I thought. But there's 6 people in there.
6?
6. There's 2 gunners. Right. 2 loaders, a driver, and a commander.
Of course, because we've got two guns.
Yeah. So actually, you're sitting astride the final drive as a driver. That's the most room, but getting through, it's not as easy as you would have first imagined because you've got ammo racks everywhere.
Yeah, and getting out, I imagine.
Well, I'll never forget. Somebody once said, why have they deleted the side doors? Well, it's better to sort of not let the shells in than getting out. So obviously the side doors are great for getting in and out, but not very good for protection.
So this is one of the vehicles in your collection. Over here, though, this M5 Stuart.
Yeah.
This is another one of yours, isn't it, Will? And it's the M5 rather than the M3, which people might be more familiar with the honey of the desert here.
Well, we have one, and in fact, that's been swapped for this one from my collection, which has basically been running for about 7 years, and we're just doing a bit of a refit because she's worked really hard. And so we're lucky enough to have got this. It's currently an American livery. French collector very kindly sold it to us. We will hope to convert it to British livery in due course because obviously this is the British Tank Museum, so we should. But it's interesting, the M3 obviously had a radial engine, 7-cylinder radial engine and boxy armour. Obviously people learned a few things, and sloped armour, better crew space. Unfortunately the same small gun, which isn't, by the time this was built, wasn't very effective. But it's fast, and they managed to jam in 2 V8 Cadillac engines into the back of this thing.
Really?
By overlapping slightly, they're just really rammed in there. So quite extraordinary.
One driving each side, or
basically they come together and they have one final drive. So at the end of the day, it's very fast, and I think the crews liked it. It was fast, roomy. Later in the war, they took the turrets off and just had them as open sort of reconnaissance vehicles.
Reconnaissance vehicles.
So. It's nice to be able to show the public these, because it is a bit of a sort of Darwinian thing when you look at tanks, how they developed in such a short time.
Yeah, exactly. And also these do have features in common. The suspensions with the bogies are, these detachable bogies.
The volute spring suspension, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Essentially on both these tanks and on the Sherman.
I think originally it was a tractor design.
Right.
And the good thing about it is, I suppose, if they are blown off, whatever, you can bolt another one on. Obviously, not as good for speed and other things as torsion bar suspension. But yeah, it's very much 1930s design, sort of evolving.
Yeah.
And that's the last of that sort of design. And then the next one after this, obviously, was a Chaffee, kept the engines, bigger vehicle, but that had torsion bar suspension.
Right. I mean, if you had to pick a favourite, come on.
I like
because
them
you've got two beautiful vehicles. Are those you said this is sort of
That's
Johnny
a
Laid,
pleasure to drive. It's automatic, it's point and fire, and it's very fast and good fun.
Right.
This old girl, she's bloody hard work to drive, but quite fun really as well. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's just extraordinary.
Yeah. Well, I think it's amazing.
I think it's just quite fun for the public to see them going because you
to
do.
see these running. Yeah.
Yeah, because it brings it to life, and the Darwinian sort of evolution, I think, is part of the fun and hearing them, seeing them. So it's a stupid hobby, but what the hell?
I don't know. I don't think.
It's interesting.
It's interesting, and interesting is better than stupid, right? But,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think it's amazing they've got this running. I mean, it's a peculiar beast.
It's
isn't
extraordinary. It's like a large wedding cake, really. It just keeps going on and up. And the American one, obviously, the Lee had a smaller turret, but then it had a mini turret on top.
Yeah.
So it's an even another layer on top.
Yeah.
But I think we decided not to do that at the Brits.
And thicker armour on the turret and the Grant, apparently.
Was it
just
really?
by a little bit?
Oh, really? Interesting. I didn't know that.
I mean, this is a Grant, not a Lee, because after all, Grants and Lees, you'd be at a glance you'd be forgiven for not knowing the difference.
You would. I mean, of course, the Americans developed it as a Lee. It had a smaller turret at the top and the radio in the bottom.
Yeah.
British didn't like the high silhouette, even though it's extremely high as a Grant. And the turret on the Grant has a bulge on the back where you actually have a radio that commander can reach and use. So
Right.
I think you'll see at the back there is a bulge. It's a slightly lower, squatter turret, but same armament.
But that's all to do with putting the commander in charge rather than someone inside
Someone downstairs.
reporting what he's been told to say. You've got
Exactly.
the guy actually saying.
I think that was the reasoning behind it.
Now, would there be any chance of, a ride in the?
Well, I might do.
Yeah, fine.
If you're nice to me.
Well, I think I've thrown you some softball questions.
All right then. Yeah, of course you can. No,
Well,
they'll be delighted.
That would be absolutely amazing because the thing is, the British love this tank. Don't
Yes,
they?
I think they
that's
did.
what's interesting about it, and because it's reliable, it's quick, and even though it's not particularly well armed, they stick with it, and it stays as a recce tank.
It's a very good recce tank, and it's fast, and you can get out of trouble quick.
And it
I
does
think
very
that's the
well in
thing.
Burma as well. They do very
Yes,
well
absolutely.
in the collapse in Burma.
Well, again, you've got Japanese tanks weren't the match for the. You didn't need heavy armor, although these were quite good there. But those were a match for most Japanese vehicles. So no, welcome.
right,
I hope
brilliant.
you enjoy it.
God, it's snug, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, how'd you get out? Ah! This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit. And behold, the beast. This is a Tiger tank.
It's the biggest, baddest, toughest thing on the battlefield.
Welcome to WW2headquarters.com with me, Al Murray, here at the Tank Museum. And we're here to look for Tigers. Ah! I don't know, it's a Mark IV, don't be so silly. This is a Tiger tank. This, Tiger 131. And behold, the beast, Tiger burning bright. Here it is in its full glory. And we're going to look at the story of this incredible tank, its place in the mythology of the Second World War and armoured fighting vehicles, and find out how it got here. Like and subscribe, why not? I mean, I'd like and subscribe one of these. If you were tank crew, you'd want to be in one of these, wouldn't you? Until it broke down. So, Chris, here we are atop. This is very privileged access, to be honest. I never thought I'd ever
It is a bit, isn't
sit
it?
up
Yeah.
here. Yeah.
Tiger 131.
Yeah, quite. I mean, the jewel in the crown of the tank museum. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, and a lot of people know this. This is the last running Tiger 1 in the world. And when we have her out, which is basically twice a year, people come from all over the world to see this.
Yeah.
Because it's just got that cachet, really has.
Yeah.
I mean, the Tiger, it's on the battlefield. You know, this was the cause of terror, Tiger phobia. Opposing tank crews actually abandoning their tanks when one of these things comes around the corner, because it is that combination of massively powerful gun,
Yep.
and that 88 can knock out something like a Sherman 1,500 metres away,
Yeah.
or a T-34, and very thick armour. So on the Glassy, it's 100 mil on the front of the turret, 140. And it's just that combination, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a beast.
Yeah, but of almost like mythic quality. Reputation is an important thing in war, after all, isn't it? Napoleon is worth however many thousand men, as he sees himself. You know, and the Tiger has that impact on the battlefield, to the point where in Normandy, people are seeing Tigers when a Mark IV appears, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They do get worked up about it. And I mean, we have a record of some Comet tanks right towards the end of the war, and there is a Tiger, but the commander says there's a Tiger here, and the response from HQ is, oh, well, he'll say that, of course it isn't. Yeah, so you do get that cachet, that sort of terror inspired by this tank. And I mean, things like the Panzer IV, with the Sherman, with the added armour around the turret, at a distance, it does look a bit like a Tiger.
Yeah, and you're not going to take your chances, are you?
Not really.
No.
I mean, that Comet commander, he's looking at that Tiger and thinking, well, I can't put a front, I will not have the faintest chance, even if I put a round right to the front of that at close range. It'll have me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I mean, the Germans know this, right? They know that it has this reputation, and they're well aware of this cachet you're talking about.
Yes, yeah, they are, and I mean that is why I mean, the whole thing, tank development in World War II, is obviously a catch-up game. So to start off with, they're desperate. They've come across the T-34. It's better than anything they've got. Right, get something that we can stick an 88 in, and that's what this is. They then go on, obviously, even bigger tanks. So you've got Tiger II, with a bigger, more powerful 88mm gun. It is very much like that. It's constantly trying to make something bigger and nastier and tougher than the other guy that's going to scare him witless.
But the flip of it, though, is the reputation. The counter argument is that it's not particularly reliable.
No, it's. I mean, the engine in there, that's a Maybach HL230. It can cart round something like a Panther. That's about 10 or 12 tons lighter. All of these German heavies have the same problem, and it gets worse as they get bigger, in that the engine, transmission, drivetrain can't cope with the weight, and you start to get major problems. I mean, the other thing about it, things like shortage of spare parts. Maybach, who make the engines, aren't very good at supplying spares.
Right.
So half your Tigers are out of the game because they're missing something, and it's 1,000 kilometres away back in Germany.
So the question of reliability is also a question of supply and logistics and spares and...
It is. I mean, you've got one company, effectively, Maybach, who design and build the vast majority of German tank engines. They, as a company, are more engine assemblers and finishers. They're depending on a big, long supply chain. That is breaking down. It is I mean, particularly when you get to the bigger stuff, things like Tiger IIs, half your tank fleet is immobilised because they're just waiting for spares.
Yeah.
Like you're, 1,000 k away back in Germany, and you're on the Eastern Front.
Yeah. And the Tiger is, I think, it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's designed as a breakout tank, isn't it? Initially conceived as a breakout tank.
It is.
But actually, it's in a essentially defensive role that it excels. On the Eastern Front and then again on the Western Front. The
concept of the breakout tank actually goes back into the 30s, but they never actually get there. I mean, if they had Tiger in 1940, that would have been one thing. But by the time they're actually getting Tigers onto the battlefield in fair numbers, the game has changed.
Yeah.
The concept of breakout tank, what you actually need is something that's good in defence. Something could sit there, hold down, knock out enemy tanks, and then probably go out backwards. Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you've got to think about something like the Stug or the Jagdpanther,
which are cheaper and simpler to manufacture.
Much cheaper, much easier to manufacture.
What do these cost?
It's something bizarre, like 300,000 man-hours to build one.
What?
And I can't remember. It's over 1 million Reichsmarks.
Goodness me!
I mean, that's absolutely everything. That is from turning the first nut right up to producing the. But you've got these things are taking tens, hundreds of times longer to produce than the opposition, the T-34, the Sherman.
Yeah.
I mean, the Sherman, T-34s, they're knocking them out every few days.
Yes, yeah.
This thing it's weeks.
But it's as much to do with the fact that German manufacturing hasn't cracked mass production as such. So these are essentially built in workshops, aren't
they? They are hand finished to an unbelievable degree. I mean, if you look at Soviet production, I mean, they build vast factories. Chelyabinsk, Tankograd. If you look at the way the Americans do it, they have the might of railroad and the car factories, who are used to producing things in huge quantities. And it's production line stuff.
And they're not being bombed.
They're not being bombed
because German industry. I think it's very interesting the arguments about the strategic bombing campaign, its effectiveness.
Yeah,
they are those arguments. But if you weren't bombing Germany,
I mean, they'd obviously have an easier life. I mean, it is debate. The Speer, bless him, is actually really good at maintaining industrial production, and tank production doesn't decline appreciably.
Yeah.
Towards the end
what
of the
they
war.
would have been able to
but
do.
What they'd have been able to do had not the USAF and the RAF been dropping hate on them.
Yeah. Well,
entirely another thing. We can only guess at it.
Now, why do you think, with its mythic history, and we've talked about what it represents on the battlefield, why is this such an attraction still?
I think, putting it in very simple terms, it's the biggest, baddest, toughest thing on the battlefield.
Right.
It's that combination of destructive power, of technology. Yeah. I mean, it's the ultimate big boy's toy, isn't it?
Yeah. And in this part of the museum, particularly around the tanks that are designed to oppose, or that it opposes, it feels towers over them. It feels like poor old Valentine over there. Like it feels like a thing of a completely different order, doesn't it? It feels like the first modern vehicle.
Yeah, the first time I think I came here, I think my daughter was about 5. I was with my missus, and there was this and a Sherman parked side by side. And my missus said, "How the hell did we win?"
Right.
And it's that you just get that. It is sheer power issuing from this great squat toad of a thing, don't you?
That's a perfect place to end, yes. So it's a simple question, Chris. How on earth did this Tiger tank end up in Dorset in a museum, in the Tank Museum?
It's a longish story. It originates in Tunisia in 1943, a place called Medjez al-Bab. There are a handful of Tigers that have been sent to North Africa, Schwere Panzerabteilung, to beef the Afrika Korps effort. And this one gets into a scrap with some of our Churchills from 48 RTR.
Yeah.
Now, you know the Churchill, it's got mighty thick frontal armour.
Yes.
They're carrying the 6-pounder gun. This knocks out a couple of Churchills, pretty well straight away. Puts a round straight through the frontal armour. I mean, the 88 is a massively powerful gun.
Yeah.
But the Churchills then lay on with a will, and they're pouring fire into this and into the general area around it. And you can see, there's a fair bit of battle damage, isn't there?
Yeah.
On the lifting eye there.
Yeah.
That is a round that's ricocheted. You're talking 6-pounder AP, so solid shot here.
Yeah.
And then here, this is the crucial one, because a round comes in here,
scuffs under the gun,
skips along the underside of the barrel, and it's deflected down into the turret ring.
Right.
And there's a dink in the turret ring, and it jams the turret. There's also the thought that you've got splinters of it coming into the tank.
Yeah.
Probably wounding members of the crew.
Yeah.
And I believe that the comms kit, which was sat there in the middle, goes down here. You've got, here's the driver, there is the bow gunner come radio operator. There's a possibility that they are wounded. The loader's hatch had a big lump taken out of it. I mean, it's been replaced since, so you can't see that. But that's something else. That's another round.
Yeah.
So I think what you have here is a tank commander who has got a jammed gun, turret went reverse, and he has got wounded crew.
Yeah.
And he really does what he really shouldn't do, and leaves an intact Tiger 1 on the battlefield.
Rather than just sticking it in reverse.
Rather than just sticking it in reverse, or using the demolition charges that were supplied to blow the thing up.
Yes.
The only thing about that, and this is just my thought on the matter, a lot of tank crews didn't like having demolition charges sat there.
No.
Because if a round comes in, they might go off.
They might go off, yeah.
So whether those demolition charges are actually in a ditch down the road, don't know. Either way, it is intact. German artillery has a go at brassing it up.
Yep.
And there is damage around the back.
Right.
Where you've got round fragments that have shredded some of the shrouds and the exhaust and things like that. But it is picked up the following morning by the British Army. Great jubilation. We hadn't had one of these before.
Yeah.
And then you've got this series of sort of scenarios where it's taken back to the race course in Tunis. And it is seen by the King, Mr. Churchill. There's a fabulous shot of Churchill standing just there on the foredeck. He's in his white siren suit. Yeah. And he's holding an 88mm round, and you can tell he's looking at it thinking, oh my God, that's big.
Yes, we don't have an answer to that. I mean, the Allies do know about the Tiger, don't they?
We know about it.
But
We've
we haven't seen it yet.
We haven't got one yet.
Yeah.
Now we have.
Right.
It is then taken back and exhibited in Horse Guards. And I don't know about you. If I was a British tanker, I happened to be in London.
You're down for the weekend.
And you see this sitting on ground in Horse Guards. I think I might be a little bit wary of it, putting it mildly. But again, it's all part of the Tiger legend.
Yeah.
It was taken away for evaluation. The engine was unfortunately sectioned for instructional purposes. So about 25 years ago, when we wanted to get this tank running again, we had to find another Maybach HL 210 or 230 engine. We've actually gone through a couple. We had one that was had a major fault. It basically blew the crankcase.
Right.
But now we have got a Maybach engine in there, and this tank is very much fussed over. I mean, the guys, every time she goes out, she gets major TLC.
Yeah.
But we have the last running Tiger in the world. As I said, you get guys coming from all over the world to set.
Yeah. When James and I go walking the ground, one of the things we love to do is spot a building with a bit of spang, right? And the brilliant thing about Tiger 131 is it is like a building with spang on it. That's how you can connect to the history, through the spang. Look at the battle damage on here from when it was shelled by conflicting parties trying to get there, either deny the use of the Tiger to the other side. You get the idea anyway. But this is what's wonderful about this exhibit here, is it carries its history in it, as well as reinforcing some of the Tiger tank myths because when you come around the corner in here and you see this, you think, oh, crikey, that's a bit scary. And imagine yourself, you know, toddling up a hill in Tunisia, maybe in a Stuart, having a look for stuff, and then you see this lad the other side of the valley, you think, reverse gears. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed our trip to the Tank Museum. We hope you've enjoyed Tiger 131. Remember to like and subscribe to WW2headquarters.com, and a huge thanks to the Tank Museum for this incredible access that we've had today. Cheerio. This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster, and you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not? Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit. He's down, Murray. This way. This way. For the glitz and glamour, the red carpet. The star of fury itself. I'm not going to ask it who it's shagging, obviously. Hello there, it's Al Murray here for WW2headquarters.com, and we're at the Tank Museum, of course. And now I work in showbiz, and I've worked with lots of famous people. I've met all sorts of incredible people over the years. I've played drums with Queen, I've appeared at the O2, I've met the King. But today I'm going to get to meet a bona fide film star. That's right, Hollywood has come to Dorset, ladies and gentlemen, because it's my chance, and look at the crowds thronging, they're here for this too. Their chance to meet a Hollywood movie star. Yes, that's right, the star of fury itself. Oh, so exciting. I'm in a way, I'm glad James isn't here, because James would just hog our movie star guest. So, you know, win-win. Also, he's got some ripe opinions about fury, let's be honest now.
Why is Brad Pitt leaping on a guy on a horse and stabbing him to death? Why didn't he just shoot him with his revolver? First of all, Brad Pitt is nearly 50. He didn't have 50-year-old tank commanders. Most of them were in their 20s. Everything about that film I found incredibly annoying.
Morning. How are you? He's down, Murray. This way. This way. For the glitz and glamour, the red carpet of Hollywood show business. Didn't win an Oscar, but that's not the point, is it? And we might get the chance to see its co-star in action as well. 2 Hollywood movie stars for the price of 1. How about that? I'm not going to ask it who it's shagging, obviously. It's not that sort of YouTube video, is it? I mean, here we go. My big chance with a movie star. Well, so, great to meet you, Fury. Very exciting to. I've got a couple of questions, obviously. How did you get the part in Fury as the lead Sherman in that movie? Great, brilliant. And in the scene with the Tiger tank, you know, which is an iconic war movie scene, of course, that we'll be talking about in a minute. What was your motivation? Oh, right, I see, not get blown up, okay. And, I mean, any chance of Fury 2? Is there a chance of further movie adventures? Great, that's with your agent, I completely understand. Well, thanks so much for your time. Very special moment, and hopefully we'll be seeing your co-star, the Tiger. And how did you actually get along? You know, was it fun on the lot together? Fantastic stuff. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a unique privilege to get up close and personal with this incredible Sherman. You know, I'm all fizzy. What can I tell you?
But seriously, obviously, this example of the Sherman, and it's been dressed for the movie, and they've left it in all the, you know, the stowage and the logs and all that from when they made the film. This is a really brilliant example of American tank development during the war, right? Because yes, it's a Sherman tank, but in the main museum there's Michael, which is the first Sherman type that was stuck together earlier in the war, and in lots of ways. And I love the way they've left the stowage on this. I mean, if you're into making your models, cool. Look, that's exactly where coming through the radiator, you get, or through the exhaust, you get your actual soot and all that sort of stuff. And I know there are going to be a load of models here perving hard this weekend. But what this is really interesting, what this is or shows is really interesting about American tank development, is this is a Sherman, yes, but the tracks are wider. It's a completely new suspension system. Obviously, it's still modular, so that if something goes wrong, you can whip that off and stick another one on. But it's totally different. It's a bigger turret. They've upgunned it. It's this. In many ways, it's like the Spitfire Mark 1 and the Spitfire Mark 24. It's essentially, it looks like the same thing. It's called the same thing. It's an M4, but it's been completely taken to its developmental limit, although of course these Rayleighs after the war will then upgun it further and turn it into the sort of Super Sherman or whatever you want to call it. And I think this shows that not only is Allied tank production and American tank production about mass production and about this incredible thing of grabbing parts from here and there and sticking a thing together in the form of the M4, you know, because we've got a Grant over there which is sort of, you know, which is kind of like the caterpillar before it emerges from its chrysalis sludge into the Sherman, right? But what you've got here is an example, although you're in this mass production cycle, you've also got relentless development and evolution, that the feedback loop that's making this tank develop takes you to a really, really like natty bit of kit by the end of the war on essentially the same piece of A4 when the thing was drawn up in the first place. But we're not just here to talk about the Sherman tank, and we want to talk about the movie Fury, because here we are with a film star, and I got some opinions. Yes, I do. First things first, let's get this out of the way. Every tank nut knows that there was a Churchill Avery on D-Day called Fury. It had Fury written on this little Avery pod for the spigot mortar. So this is another classic example of the Americans taking a British Second World War story and Americanising it and sticking Brad Pitt in it. No, seriously. What I really like about the movie, and James and I do have varying opinions, and in a way, quite glad he's not here because I get to say what I think. By the way, obviously, we're here on Tiger Day, and there's people taking rides around in a track vehicle over there, so that's what the noise is. I mean, you want to hear the squeal of tracks, yeah, wheels on tracks coming towards you at the Tank Museum. That's one of the brilliant things about coming here, is you do get this experiential sense of the vehicles. They're not just static objects in the museum. They're living, breathing, running exhibits. Anyway, point is, the criticisms of Fury are, of course, easy to make. Brad Pitt is far too old to be commanding a tank. I mean, they're all much too old. They'd all be nicknamed Grandpa. Every single one of them, even the youngest people in that tank, right? So let's not get hung up on that. That's war movie. That's standard war movie stuff. And of course, you know, if you don't attach someone like Brad Pitt, that thing would never get made, right? Not unlike this video. But the truth is, what I really love about Fury, and you can see it here in the tank and the way it's still dressed in the movie, is the art direction on it is brilliant. The attention to detail. I mean, obviously, and someone is going to be in the comments right now going, well, I got this wrong and that's wrong. No, that's not the point. The look and the vibe of it is really, really powerful. And for all the like tiger in the middle of a field, ridiculous scenes where they all line up and get shot stuff, right? Which for anyone who's into reading about armoured warfare will go, oh, that's nonsense. The point is, what it really illustrates, and I think it's fascinating that it's depicting the very end of the war in Europe, is that the brutality, the visceral nature of combat, the way the men have been brutalised by combat, and the ever-present danger and sort of living on your nerves of fighting is right through the film, like a complete, that's its motif in a way. I think it's quite interesting. I mean, the team obviously, we were on our way here this morning, we were talking about the movie, debating it. And very often what a war movie will do to tell you what war's like is it'll have someone having a nervous breakdown to tell you war's awful, Whereas what Fury does is it shows you war's awful. There's no like, there's none of the, oh, had you realised how terrible this is? It's just showing you how brutal and brutalised the entire business is. And that's why I think actually this movie's worth a watch, as well as the fact it's got cool kit in it and it's very well presented, and the acting is, I think, really, really good for what it's worth. But I think the way it looks at the brutality and brutalising nature of combat, you know, 10 out of 10 for that. It's not as good as a Bridge Too Far, obviously. But this tank is gorgeous. Although, modelling nerds, I think they've overdone the weathering. Right, well, that's that sorted. Now over to James Holland for his one-dimensional view on Fury.
So I'm just looking at the opening captions of the movie Fury, and it says, in World War II, American tanks were outgunned and out-armoured by the more advanced German tanks. US tank crewmen suffered staggering losses against their superior enemy vehicles. Already my hackles are rising about this. I mean, first of all, okay, some of the German tanks were had thicker armour and had bigger guns, and not least the Tiger and the Tiger II. But do you know how many Tigers were built? 1,347 and 492 King Tigers. How many Shermans were built? 49,000. So that's 36 to 1. And what that point actually ignores is a whole host of things, not least that, first of all, it's not just about the gun, and it's not just about the armour, okay? It really, really isn't. It's about how easy can you get it to the battleground, how easy can you get it out of the battleground, how easy can you manoeuvre it, and a Sherman tank is so much better and easier to manoeuvre than a Tiger or even a Panther. And the bottom line is the most common armoured vehicle that the Germans had was the Stug, which was based on a Panzer III, which was around in 1940 and was not particularly well armoured at all and not particularly well gunned. And the Stug didn't have a revolving turret, so it made it a self-propelled gun rather than a tank. And that was the most common. The others were the Panzer IV, which was about on par with the Sherman tank. So that whole premise is entirely wrong. And I don't really care about that, were it not for the fact that the filmmakers were going to such huge amount of effort to try and prove that this was historically accurate and gritty realism, like the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, which is a whole another story, by the way. So that's the first thing. When I first saw that, I just thought, oh no, I'm just going to sit through this getting more and more annoyed. Why is Brad Pitt leaping on a guy on a horse and stabbing him to death? Why don't you just shoot him with his revolver? It makes no sense whatsoever. Everything about that film I found incredibly annoying. First of all, Brad Pitt is nearly 50. He didn't have 50-year-old tank commanders. Most of them were in their 20s. So that's wrong. Even if you had a kind of older guy, he'd be in his early 30s, late 30s maybe. Second thing, the language. They just wouldn't have talked to each other like that. That is the language of people that are playing Call of Duty or World of Tanks. It's for teenagers who are playing computer games. They just didn't talk to each other. And I think one of the things that's most important about trying to get a sense of historical accuracy is trying to evoke the language of the day. Now you can't be, you don't want to turn into a sort of a cliche, so it's a balancing act, but they just get that completely wrong. And a raw recruit just wouldn't have been treated like that. They might have been ignored a little bit, but they wouldn't have been brutalised in a way. They would have been brutalised by what they witnessed, but not by their own tank crew. Incredibly unlikely. Okay, if you're coming up against a Tiger tank, one thing you do not do is line up one side by side and charge across a field. You manoeuvre. And what you're doing by having 3 tanks all in a row is giving yourself a massive target. What you would want to do is you'd say, okay, there's a Tiger there, let's scram. And you'd all hit it from different angles so it doesn't know where it's attacking. The moment you hit it, the tank commander's going to go down into his turret. The moment he goes down to his turret, he can't see as much because he's relying on periscopes. Periscopes, even German ones with their brilliant optics, are still really...
This thing is a beast, isn't it? Look at it, it's a monster. And you can help bring this monster back to life. Go to the Tank Museum website and chip in, why not?
Just want to reiterate, this never happens. Yeah, cash. There we go. I'll have that bit.
When I first saw that, I just thought, oh no, I'm just going to sit through this getting more and more annoyed. Why is Brad Pitt leaping on a guy on a horse and stabbing him to death? Why don't you just shoot him with his revolver? So that whole premise is entirely wrong. Everything about that film. So I'm just looking at the opening captions of the movie Fury, and it says, in World War II, American tanks were outgunned and out-armoured by the more advanced German tanks. US tank crewmen suffered staggering losses against their superior enemy vehicles. Already my hackles are rising about this. I mean, first of all, okay, some of the German tanks were had thicker armour and had bigger guns, and not least the Tiger and the Tiger II. But do you know how many Tigers were built? 1,347 and 492 King Tigers. How many Shermans were built? 49,000. So that's 36 to 1. And what that point actually ignores is a whole host of things, not least that, first of all, it's not just about the gun and it's not just about the armour, okay? It really, really isn't. It's about how easy can you get it to the battleground? How easy can you get it out of the battleground? How easy can you manoeuvre it? And a Sherman tank is so much better and easier to manoeuvre than a Tiger or even a Panther. And the bottom line is the most common armoured vehicle that the Germans had was the Stug, which was based on a Panzer III, which was around in 1940 and was not particularly well armoured at all and not particularly well gunned. And the Stug was didn't have a revolving turret, so it made it a self-propelled gun rather than a tank. And that was the most common. The others were the Panzer IV, which was about on par with the Sherman tank. So that whole premise is entirely wrong. And I don't really care about that, were it not for the fact that the filmmakers were going to such a huge amount of effort to try and prove that this was historically accurate and gritty realism, like the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, which is a whole another story, by the way. So that's the first thing. When I first saw that, I just thought, oh no, I'm just going to sit through this getting more and more annoyed. Second thing, why is Brad Pitt leaping on a guy on a horse and stabbing him to death? Why don't you just shoot him with his revolver? It makes no sense whatsoever. Everything about that film I found incredibly annoying. First of all, Brad Pitt is nearly 50. You didn't have 50-year-old tank commanders. Most of them were in their 20s. So that's wrong. Even if you had a kind of older guy, he'd be in his early 30s, late 30s maybe. Second thing, the language. They just wouldn't have talked to each other like that. That is the language of people that are playing Call of Duty or World of Tanks. It's for teenagers who are playing computer games. They just didn't talk to each other. And I think one of the things that's most important about trying to get a sense of historical accuracy is trying to evoke the language of the day. Now you can't be, you don't want to turn into a sort of a cliche, so it's a balancing act. But they just get that completely wrong. And a raw recruit just wouldn't have been treated like that. They might have been ignored a little bit, but they wouldn't have been brutalised in a way. They would have been brutalised by what they witnessed, but not by their own tank crew. Incredibly unlikely. Then you come to the infamous Tiger tank scene, which is just so nonsensical, it's not true, okay? If you're coming up against a Tiger tank, one thing you do not do is line up one side by side and charge across a field. You manoeuvre. And what you're doing by having 3 tanks all in a row is giving yourself a massive target. What you would want to do is you'd say, okay, there's a Tiger there, let's scram. And you'd all hit it from different angles so it doesn't know where it's attacking. The moment you hit it, the tank commander's going to go down into his turret. The moment he goes down to his turret, he can't see as much because he's relying on periscopes. Periscopes, even German ones with their brilliant optics, are still really bad and are not a good way to fight a battle. So what you would have done is you'd have maneuvered, you'd fired a shot, beetled back out of the way, someone else would have fired another shot, you'd have aimed for his tracks, disabled the tank, and then you would have eventually got him up the backside, which is exactly what Brad Pitt does. But you would not be charging over a field like that. I mean, that is suicide. Finally, The bit in the, I thought the scene in the town was okay. That was all right. I didn't mind that bit so much. The infantry attack where they're coming across the field, that was okay. But the whole kind of sort of shooting of prisoners thing, I thought that was just unnecessarily gratuitous, and it's violent enough as it is without having to do or go through the kind of shooting the guy who's pleading for his life. I mean, obviously some Americans did commit war crimes, but wasn't common practice, I would say. So the final bit is the Sherman tanker, the Fury tank at the crossroads coming up against a bunch of elite Waffen SS. Well, first of all, they weren't elite by that stage of the war. They were undertrained, underarmed and under-equipped. And secondly, you just wouldn't expose yourself. The Allies have overwhelming air superiority at that point. The moment you're in trouble and you're on your own on a crossroads, you call in close air support, and that column would have been toast. The thing is about the Second World War is there's so much drama in it, you don't need to make it up. You really, really don't. I would give Fury 2 out of 10. I thought it was shite.